everybody, what's up? So third podcast in, got a different little bit of group, except Mike is here like normal. Mike's also here also, and Matt. I'm the odd one out here. I used to have a middle name that started with M, so that was close. But yeah, just another low level, just hanging out, talking about our weeks and some topics you want to bring up, and yeah, we'll kind of go on with it. We'll start with the new guys first. Matt, how's your week?
It was fine.
All right,
not really.
Moving on.
Hey, you said it was laid back, not super eventful, which is how I like it. Just in the process of getting, which next week I'll be doing, getting irons in the fire for hopefully, if things go right, my next career move. So
good for you. Awesome.
Yeah. Which, by the way, is not as insured as you think. It's literally working for the post office system. So,
hey, it's something.
It's not like I'm quitting my day job and working on YouTube.
Hey, man, it's better than nothing. I make Windows all day, so. All right. No. Lenny on Mike, how's your week been? Oh, Mike, you're muted.
Mike's having so much fun. We don't get to know.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, my thing. Yeah, I was just saying, yeah, don't bite off more than you can chew. Work your way up to YouTuber, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been good for me. I'd say, shoot, what's interesting? Well, there's no ferocious storms in Missouri right now, so
that's good.
I'm not getting blown away by Category 1 wins. That's positive. I'm taking a dance class. It's
nice.
Interesting. Been taking it for about 2-3 months now, and it's been pretty fun. Got any of you guys do any sort of music, dance, anything like that?
I dance horribly myself.
I was about to say white guy pathetically wedding dance, if that counts. I know how to do the worm. If that counts for anything. Sprinkler.
Hey.
What kind of dancing is it?
Ballroom, so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, thought it'd be interesting. My mom's like, hey, I cleaned this place right across the street from this dance place, and you said you were interested in dancing. You should check it out. So I said, yeah, sure, whatever. I'm a little bored. And I feel like I don't have anything going. So I'm like, let's just do something new. Let's just do something crazy.
It worked out for Patrick Swayze. I'm just saying.
So hey, if Pat can do it. But yeah, so that's been a lot of fun. Swing, salsa,
tango,
tango, foxtrot, yeah, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so pretty fun. Getting my groove on.
Nice. Hey,
also just a way to break up the monotonous doldrums of Twitter,
Yeah,
certainly.
Yeah, there's a point where I'm like, I'm not that popular on Twitter. I'm okay with that sometimes.
Yeah, let's go out into the real world and do something.
Sure.
Exactly.
I tend to think about that a lot, where I'm just like, there are some times when I'm just like, I'm really happy I don't have more success on YouTube or Twitter, because like seeing what some of my friends do with, I'm like, I'm okay with nobody watching my video this week. That's fine. That's okay.
There's something about social media and even like YouTube that podcasting too. Like, to be honest, I've kind of just abandoned my podcast. Didn't even tell anyone about it. I kind of just like stopped podcasting for like the past like few months, and I'll probably pick it up. It's just like you always feel like, man, like, is it worth it? Like, is anyone listening? Like, it. And sometimes, like, when you're doing a podcast, it's impossible to like always talk about something that you really are truly interested in every single time. And like, I'm always honest on my podcast. I'm like, I this week wasn't really that great with anime, but yeah.
That's kind of how I formatted this one the way that I did. I'm like, if people are available and got stuff they want to talk about, come on in. If not, I just not do it that month. And that's why it's only monthly. I'm not going to be like, I need someone this week. No, I'm good.
Yeah, that was my problem with my podcast, which is why I've had to put on hiatus. It's just like trying to find people, which it's always so weird because it's just like people are so willing on Twitter to be like, gosh, I love Jurassic Park. And they're like, hey, you want to come on a podcast to talk about Jurassic Park? Oh, no, I'm busy. Okay.
I don't love it that much.
Fine.
I get that all the time. Like finding guests on our podcast is next to impossible unless we just happen to our schedule just happened to align.
Or we have a bunch of people with no lives. That helps.
Yeah, I mean, I have a whole I have multiple Discord.
That's why Mike gets me on his podcast all the time.
It helps, but
It helps.
yeah,
Yeah,
Mike
it's
has-
never finding guests that are difficult. It's always finding people to help you actually make and distribute the podcast. That's so hard. I mean, if you record, like I like to record 1.5 to 2 hour podcasts because that's the point at where I feel like I can comprehensively talk about something that I care about.
Yeah.
And 2 hours of just recording is always you're not going to spend any less time editing than you did recording. So if you spend 2 hours, you're going to spend a minimum of 2 hours editing the podcast, and then of course, chopping it up, getting pieces for like little snippets for kind of marketing and advertising it, putting a little snippets up and like actually if you really want to commit and like do the brand, it's just hours, man. It's hours and hours per podcast, and then you have to record, and it's just like sleepless nights. And then you work, you have a full-time job. It's like, just forget it.
I'll do you one better, man. I make video essays, and that's writing scripts, then recording said scripts, then having to edit the audio, then editing the video to go with that.
Wait. You edit audio separate from the video?
Yeah. So essentially what I do is I write the script, I record the script, and I just go in one long loop. Like I won't cut. And so I have to find the points in which I said the lines correctly. When I didn't, take out the breaths, all that, and then put corresponding video that makes sense over that. And my videos are all like under 10 minutes or just a little over. That stuff can take me, most of my videos take me about 3 hours to edit.
I was looking,
and then I get 12 views. Yeah.
The best feeling ever.
Except this week, actually, somehow my Smokey and the Bandit video is doing incredibly well, and I was like, I think people gave that much care about Smokey and the Bandit, but hey, I'll take it.
It is.
But
I'd like to get into that. That's interesting. I'm gonna have to get some tips from you because I've always been doing audio recording, and audio recording is so tedious because, like, for instance, like video, I don't know. I think there's a certain element to video where people expect some audio errors. Like if people are looking at you speak, they're there because they want the personality, they want the flubs, they want your whole imperfect self. But when someone's listening to it, like someone's smooth, silky voice, while they're driving in their car, they're listening to all the little pops and clicks and the spit,
even the breaths, like trying to find the points in between a line when you just take a normal breath and having to get that out. Because you're right, someone doesn't want to be watching a video and hear me just go, like just a normal thing that you're like, everybody does it. And yet you're like, yeah, nobody, when I'm talking about Star Wars, wants to hear me just go. Like
your quality is probably so good that it's like I'd have to watch the video essay multiple times just to understand how much effort you put in. Like
you be the first. No, I'm kidding. I have friends who appreciate the effort. It's just viewers don't.
Yeah, sometimes quality. I'm sorry, I'm overtaking everything.
No,
but sometimes quality is like, you put so much effort into something and people don't recognize it consciously, but they do unconsciously. And they still appreciate it. They don't know where to put. Yeah.
Me and my friend have talked about this so much because he actually does YouTube professionally. He's also, everyone go check out Michael French, Retro Blessing. It's a plug because I love that man. We've talked about this stuff to where it's just like when a video is done perfectly, when it's edited perfectly, when the clips go perfectly, when the video, the audio, whatever, nobody really notices it. But when there's a little flub,
everyone hones in.
Everybody can pick it up. It's those things, it's those, which is so weird because you're like, oh, well, obviously that's why like editing Oscars, I'm just like, how do they do that? Because really the best editing is when you don't realize there was an edit to begin with. You look at the original Star Wars and it's just like, I don't know how'd they do that. I don't know. Because that's the thing, when you're watching like my Smoking the Band video, you just start watching like a 5-minute video. You don't see me taking a 10-minute long audio recording, where I'm messing up and then going through an hour and a half long movie to find the clips. Like, you don't see that. Even when like James Ralph or people like that like make episodes about making of episodes, even then it's just a weird disconnect to where when it's really good, no one notices and gives you the credit. But when it's bad, they'll all let you know it's bad and you screwed up.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of those things where it's hard to tell people. When I used to do that, I used to do video game news for a website that made me almost completely blow my brains out over never want to do YouTube again. I'll let y'all figure that out. You probably know who it is because I've avoided talking about it on this channel before. But anyone that wants to do video essays and likes music and doesn't mind experimenting on a channel, this weirdly helped me a lot. Make an AMV. It is stupid easy practice to where
What's
you're
an
just
AMV?
Animated music video where like you just take a song, get clips from a show you like, and then try and match up clips for stuff to do editing that
I
way.
didn't know that was because that's the first things. If you go on my channel, that's all the videos I have. There was that and fan made trailers. I always tell
Yeah.
people try
Yeah.
making a trailer for a
Yeah.
movie. Like
That's how
I did
started
so that
out.
stuff
Way to
early
edit.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Best
how
way
I
to edit
started
is
out,
make a
and
trailer.
it helps a ton because like when you're putting clips together for stuff, you kind of find out good places for breaks, things like that. But it's like you don't know them crack jokes. There were like you take a scene from a show and then you like either dub in different audio from other stuff and other things to do that.
Yeah.
There's one from
Or unabridged. You know?
Unabridged, yeah. Like Ruby, there's a scene where in the first season, all the kids get launched off a cliff into a forest to like initiate themselves to find a partner, and then they have to survive and make it back out. There's a point where one of the kids, like as a joke, has to go to the bathroom and gets launched out anyway. This professor just goes. So I edited in the point where Sanka had to go to the bathroom in Cool Runnings. That joke is 30 seconds long. That took me an hour.
Yeah.
And then no one liked it. Then another one where the clip just ends and I put in a 20-second, like, there's a ship that people really like. These two characters that they ship together. One of them got shot in the show, and then I put on the end from episode 3, don't worry, we're still flying half a ship, and everyone loved that. That took me 2 seconds. So, like,
What's the movie about the ship that's sinking that's not the one that you think it is? It's the other
The
one.
Poseidon Adventure?
Yes. Poseidon.
Yes.
You guys are so great. I love that. That's so
Okay, but question, because
The
one's
reason why I
the
brought it
original,
up-
one's a remake. Are you thinking of Kurt Russell or Gene Hackman?
So Poseidon, it's got the who's the guy who plays the antagonist in, I think it's a Hulk movie. He played it. Here, let me just look it up. 'Cause
Okay.
I really
Right there, I can tell you're probably thinking of Poseidon from 2006, not Poseidon Adventure from 1972.
no. But you happen to have gotten the right name. It is Poseidon 2006. You're right. I've seen this movie way more times than I can count. But yeah, Kurt Russell, Richard
original.
Dreyfuss.
The original with Gene Hackman and Ernest Borgnine, incredible movie. Incredible film.
But okay, so I edited a scene with Ruby's faces on a scene from Poseidon. It's on my YouTube channel. I think it's still there.
okay.
I mean,
I need to see this.
Mike's like,
Oh, God.
It's so cringe, man.
Nice.
I'll straight up say it in the chat. I swear.
Okay, that's fine. All right,
But,
Mike. How
how was your
then?
week, Mike?
How was your week, buddy?
Pretty Avatar.
Pretty
again?
pretty
Pretty good.
uneventful. I did see Avatar last weekend in 3D in Dolby. That was fun. Other than that,
Also a great cat. I love it.
Cinema.
other than that, really just
Nice. I'll check that out.
continuing the job search.
Yeah.
My brother came home for the
brother.
weekend,
Oh.
so we went out to dinner last night. That was fun. And yeah, just I'm just plugging away at the website.
Getting all the things done behind the
and
scenes.
talking to me on Twitter about our mutual hatred for a person who we're not going to mention, who has far more views than either one of
We
us.
also
combined.
found out that he literally robs his bad takes from another person who's known for bad takes. I saw on Twitter today.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I hate this person. Me and Mike literally had a bitch about him either last week or early this week, where we were just like, "Why is this there? It's not. It's not at all."
We'll bring that up off it because after we did that Hocus Pocus review, we went for like 45 freaking minutes about just this because like I had no idea who they were talking about, and then they mentioned the name. I'm like, I know exactly who you're.
Then I
talking
introduced you
This
to
is a
Billy on the
YouTuber,
street.
a podcaster.
I just know he's on Twitch, not Twitch, the Twitter.
TikTok.
Sorry,
Oh,
And-
yeah.
yeah.
Well, everyone's on Twitter, so
that's the only place I know him from. But as far as me, mine's been
they're all bots. Yeah.
they're-
Go ahead, sorry.
Sure.
No, you're not wrong. As far as some points, you're not wrong. But my week, we had the podcast where we talked about Edge Runners. I had to watch Edge Runners again, so I've done that.
I want to talk about Edge Runner so bad. I didn't want to push you. I didn't want to like impose upon you guys' schedule.
I
I
wasn't
was-
gonna go ahead.
I didn't even like I acted like it wasn't a big deal, but I was like dead inside. I'm like, oh no, I can't be on the Edge Runners podcast. I was really frustrated. I was like, man, it sucks so bad.
That's after we got through the weeks. I was gonna have you have a quick moment to talk about it because you were one of the ones where I was like, I liked it as much as I liked Arcane, and then I saw you like kind of somewhat agree with me. I was like, all right, I like that. But
Well,
yeah.
I actually disagreed.
or did you disagree? Oh, I thought you agreed. I'm sorry.
I mean, well, you can talk about it later if you want. You can throw it now. It's up to you. It's fine.
Yeah, well, I'll finish my week out and then we can talk about
Yeah,
it
yeah.
a little before
Go
we get
ahead.
it. But got more of the editing stuff done. Like I said, I've been practicing for the wedding that I'm going to be officiating, and then figuring out which anime I want to start next to that 8 long Google Doc of recommendations that I've been given over the years. It's either going to be I've never finished Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. It's either
Oh.
that or Code Geass. It's one of the two.
Well, they're both about the same length.
Yeah, they're both about 50 episodes, right?
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah, that's up to you, man. I'd just any mini miny it, man.
Yeah,
Or
I'm
yeah,
gonna
or
watch
flip-
the other
or
one
flip a
right
coin-
after.
Flip a
so,
coin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Part of me wants to watch when I watch Full Metal. I've never seen any of the original, and I know there's significant differences. So part of me wants to watch the first one, then the other one right after it. Because like I know the homunculi get a different
Yeah.
origin, and the main villain's different. Like a couple of them are different. Like I believe Sloth is a woman in one, and then a bigger guy in the other one. There's
Yeah.
some differences, but
That's
yeah.
how I originally watched it too. And honestly, I would recommend that.
Okay.
I would recommend watching the original, the new one. Unlike a lot of like remasters, it's actually significant enough to where you appreciate the differences, and it actually is an improvement. So it feels like you're getting more. You know, if you watch the new one first, then you watch the old one, it's like, why did I? But then, yeah. So for the best, do it that
Yeah,
way.
I'll
Yeah.
do that. All right. That was basically my week. Let's talk about Edge Runners for a little bit before we get out of it. So
Yeah, because I was dying to hear MM's opinion.
we were legit upset. I'm like, there was someone
we
else
go.
that really liked it.
MM. That's how we will refer to you, Millennium.
MM,
There we
sure.
go.
Eminem.
Eminem.
You want me to start talking?
Go right ahead, man. Me and Mike screamed.
Nice.
Me and Mike screamed our hearts out about it in that last podcast. So you go right ahead, man.
Well, I'm just, you know, I run my mouth, so.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. So when you said that it was like the Arcane of this year, you got me so hyped, right?
Oh no. Oh no. Okay.
Right?
For me a bit, but yeah, go ahead.
Right. You got me so hyped. And then I thought about it a little bit. I hadn't even watched it yet. I haven't even watched it yet, but I just thought about that a little bit. And I was like, wait a second. That's an insult to Arcane. Arcane is like the best thing that's come out in the past decade, period. Like, it's like the ultimate. It's like cream of the crop, man. It's
I
like,
meant it as much as I'm telling that many people to watch it as Arcane
Sure,
is
sure.
what I meant.
I knew you meant
That
well
could be-
by it.
yeah.
But I
get
was
what you're
like,
saying.
this is like that like raised the bar for animation. Like that actually saved animation. Like there's like Edge Runners is good. I watched it, by the way.
Yeah.
It's great. It's fantastic. Like, everything that people are saying about it, it really is good. But you're like the second person who said, man, this is like Arcane good. And I was like, man, I was like, I better watch this now before I get my because I have this like contrarian thing about me where it's like everyone's hyping things up. And I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna watch it. It's bad. You know what? So it's like I need to watch this now. If anyone else says this is Arcane, I swear I'll watch it I'll not watch it out of spite.
That's spectacular. I love that.
But yeah, no, it was fantastic. And it actually has gotten me. So like, I can list the ways that it is like Arcane.
Yeah, go ahead.
One, it's based on a game.
Mhm.
And to even expound on that further, it makes you want to play the original game, even though maybe you shouldn't.
Now, in the state it's in now, yes.
Well, I
is
heard
worlds
I heard they improved it. So, but that was kind
Yes.
of the original narrative.
Yeah.
You know, and then the second thing, it has a really great soundtrack with a lot of English songs or English spoken songs. So
You're
it gives you
expecting
that.
Franz Ferdinand?
No, people were criticizing the opening, and I'm like,
It's so good.
It's great.
It's
I
so
don't-
good.
It's great. It's
Yeah.
a strange choice, but it's great.
Mhm.
And then the last thing, actually, another thing, I think they had some pretty prolific English dubs on this as well, which kind of gives it, you know, it makes it kind of more relatable to Arcane too. It has a more dystopian vibe, and it's adult.
Yes.
So, but yeah, it's fantastic. But I could say more, but I'll let you guys go.
Yeah, no, it was one of those things where it's like, I'm trying to explain, because like, it's with Arcane, well, I was kind of explaining it to, it's like, watch Arcane. Yeah, but I didn't play League of Legends. I don't care. Watch Arcane. That was the same thing with Cyberpunk. We're like, yeah, I didn't like the game. The anime's really good. Watch it.
The funny thing about that is that I haven't heard. It's funny, like I get the sense that a lot of people on my timeline, like in my immediate circle, that are watching Edge Runners, are watching Edge Runners. Like, there's a lot of people who are watching Edge Runners that haven't seen Arcane. So I literally
Really?
tweeted, and I'm like, if you touch Edge Runners before you watch Arcane, they're both on the
I think
same
I saw that.
platform.
I
I'm
think I
gonna
saw
come
that.
to your house specifically, like personally.
I think I did see you tweet that. Yeah, I think I saw that.
It's like, come on, guys. It's like you're kidding me. Like, you literally, Arcane's been out this long, and you go right to the same platform to watch a video game adaptation. Like, get out of here. That's not Arcane. Like, get out of here.
Nice. Yeah, it's one of those things where like that I'm kind of happy Arcane and Edge Runners both exist, because do more like this.
Yes.
Do take a little liberties, do some stuff like that, short form, experiment. Need to have more of it. And if Netflix could get their head out of their ass to keep making stuff like this,
Yeah. Yeah. They're doing amazing.
yes, I'm good with that.
Speaking of experimentation, I haven't actually gotten to it yet, but there's a new movie from Kid Cudi and Kenya Barris called Intergalactic. Which
Yeah,
is it's
yeah.
like the visual component to his latest album.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's in like the style of
Spider-Verse.
Spider-Verse
Yeah.
and Arcane. I'm excited that so far reception of that has been really well received. So
Nice.
I am very much looking forward to checking that out myself.
Nice.
I know nothing about that except for the fact that the visuals look really good. I didn't know about the Kid Cudi thing or whoever else was a part of it. I saw the trailer and I saw some like sci-fi elements and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. It's on Netflix. So, but yeah, it looks cool.
Nice.
Yeah, and these are the kind of projects that I love seeing from Netflix. Even though like back in April they were going through pretty much the same stuff that Warner Discovery is going through now with their gutting of 1 million animated projects. But
Don't get me on them.
yeah, we get
It's like,
if we even
That
touch
is a
Warner
whole
Discovery, this podcast will be
whole nother podcast. But
but to
yeah.
keep it short, support the good stuff that's out now.
yeah.
yep, that is short.
Netflix has been dead to me since 2020 when they canceled Boss Baby back in business.
Oh no. They said they wanted more stuff
Are you
like Boss
kidding?
Baby, right?
Good.
Well, more stuff like it, not necessarily
Good.
more the
Boss
Boss
Baby.
More peaks of cinema? Yeah, let's get them. Okay. Okay. Check out my letterbox, my review of Godfather. I used to think this was a great film. Then I saw Boss Baby, 0 stars. Godfather Part 2. I thought this was a good movie until I saw Boss Baby, Family Business, 0 stars.
Good
My review of
God.
Boss Baby, Cinema Peaking. My review of Boss Baby Family Business, Cinema Peaking Part 2.
Wow.
Jesus Christ.
Hey, well, if you're on Letterboxd, I'm on Letterboxd too. I'm not sure if you're following me already, but I'll shoot you my Letterboxd.
You may not want to follow me. Those are my reviews. I made those
Oh, I
reviews
thought-
as a joke for one of my podcasts, and I had to pull down the Godfather ones because I'm like,
Oh, no.
I know how Letterboxd works, and some like film student who spends way too much time analyzing
no.
like a paper bag in I don't know, Goodfellas will be like, you don't understand anything. And I'm like, dude, it's a fucking joke. Clearly, I don't think Boss Baby
Yeah,
is better
chill.
than The Godfather.
Yeah. That's so
It
funny.
is.
Good God.
That's the problem with all you film bros.
Y'all just don't get the authenticity.
You just go on Twitter and you will meet these people who it's just
Yeah.
like, even if I thought it was serious, who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares?
Seriously though, man.
It is what it is. But
Dude, I open Twitter sometimes and the Tommy Lee Jones quote from when he met Jim Carrey in a restaurant when they were shooting Batman Forever always
I
comes to
cannot
mind.
sanction
I
your
cannot
buffoonery.
sanction your buffoonery.
That should be
At
everyone's
all.
pinned tweet.
It's
That
just,
is-
I should make that my pin tweet. I cannot sanction your
Your
buffoonery.
buffoonery.
Or that should be my header.
That was
At
that.
Prince
I
underscore
don't think,
Matthew. I
Another
cannot
one.
sanction your
I
buffoonery.
don't care.
yes. I don't care.
I used that in a video actually. I made a video, which I'll have to explain, called
Yeah.
Why I Don't Want the Amazing Spider-Man 3. For all positive reasons, because I love those films, and I just think that it's perfectly fine. We don't need to go back trudging up this stuff just because he popped up in a Marvel movie. So now we love Andrew Garfield. And then part of it is I'm
Dude,
just
you're
like,
you're speaking directly
I'm like-
to me.
I'm like,
I'm channeling through you right
I'm
now.
like everybody.
channeling-
I'm like everybody's like, but there were so many unanswered questions. I'm like, I've spent like all these years since 2014 watching movies, loving them, and then it just cuts to Tyler Joseph Future going, I don't care.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
got
we could talk about that too. Man.
Tommy Lee Jones, yes, or Fugitive, or Amazing Spider-Man.
Man,
yes.
the one
Oh,
that I
Either one of
do
those.
every single time I hear someone just go off the deep end, like another fugitive who's just like, what happened? He did a Peter Pan right off the edge
He
of this
did a Peter
dam.
Pan right off of here. Talk about quotes that I use on Twitter all the time. I have it saved on my phone. I have the gif of Han Solo from Empire when he's talking to 3PO and it goes, I'm glad you're here to tell us these things. I've used that so often to people who are just trying to explain to me film and everything. I just send them that. I'm just like, well, I'm glad you're here to tell us these things.
I do the opposite. I have that's not how the Force works.
They should
That's
call
the
it
one I send out
letterbox
quite a bit.
explaining.
Letterbox.
I like look. I told this to Mike because Mike is incredible with like his reviews and everything on there. I'm just like, I use this mainly just for making lists and keeping up with the movies
Yeah,
I
same.
watch. That's it. I don't review movies. Go check out my. I have a review for. I think it's Rise of Skywalker, Boss Baby 1 and 2, as we talked about, and Shazam. And I think those are the only movies I've ever reviewed on, which is why in my stats is always just like your highest rated, like review is Boss Baby Family Business, because of course it's 5
course.
stars.
It's peak of cinema. You just-
It's
it's-
the part 2 of Cinema Peaking. Part 3 will be when finally they release.
I heard Scorsese actually wrote the original script.
He ghost directed it, by the way. He's never going to admit it. He ghost
No,
directed it.
because look, Martin Scorsese is a hack who wishes he could directed Boss Baby. Okay, what?
He had
Goodfellas?
Who
was
directed
like-
Boss Baby?
Who directed
No.
Boss Baby? We don't even get to know because to hear that person's name, it'd be like God opening her voice in Dogma. Our heads would just explode.
Yeah, okay.
They're
Yeah.
just too good. It's
they were
not
like-
Alec Baldwin.
We had The Irishman, and then we had Boss Baby, and then we're just like, we can't go back. It's just
Yeah.
Netflix is
Somewhere
like, "Oh, more."
in a theater in 2016.
You've ruined cinema.
In a theater in 2016, Martin Scorsese is just saying,
Expectations are too high.
I'm never better than this. We're fucked.
We're barely 30 minutes in, and we're claiming that Boss Baby is better.
He was actually sitting next to De Niro and Pacino at his house, and he screamed before they made Irishman, and he screened it for him, and De Niro just turned to them and went,
We're done here.
might as well just all retire. We're
Yeah.
fucked.
Yeah.
And then Pacino was just like, wow, I think I can get a pot in the third one. Pacino! Ooh.
He's like Adam Sandler and freaking oh wow, I can't even think of it. With
What?
Happy Gilmore. Why wasn't I in that one, dipshit? You just can't get it in there.
Oh,
You
talk
can't
about
put it
Al
in the
Pacino
movie.
and Adam Sandler. Okay, since we're talking about quotes we use all the time, I do use, even though it's from a horrible movie, but I do use from Jack and Jill. Burn this. This must never be seen.
Honestly, the best quotes do come from bad movies. But
Yeah.
It's
a very
not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did
not.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Anyway, how's your sex life? Although my favorite quote from The Room is not even the one that most people quote, which is, "Don't touch me, motherfucker."
I've never seen The Room, so I've never heard that.
Oh,
Dude,
dude, so
it's a rite of passage.
Him and his friend get in a fight at his birthday party, and it's literally cat fight. And then he just goes, "Don't touch me, motherfucker! You just little chicken cheep." Wait, so you've never seen The Room?
No!
Get on,
I have
man.
heard so many quotes, and I've never heard "Don't touch me, motherfucker."
We're doing a 0 stars of
Is
The
this
Room.
my-
Oh god, now
favorite-
we are now.
Oh my goodness,
Dude,
that's
that
so
movie-
funny.
Oh my god, I love, dude, the drug dealer scene. Where's my fucking money, Danny? Where's the fucking money, Danny?
Just give me 5 minutes. I don't have 5 fucking
I don't
minutes.
have fun. And you know what? Zac Efron, that man in Disaster Artist, I've seen where they've shown both things. He does such a good job recreating that guy. Give me the fucking money, Danny. Oh, there's other quotes you might not have heard. I have cancer.
Well, I got the results back.
Well, I got the results.
I
It's
definitely
cancer.
have breast cancer.
I definitely have breast
Cancer. Oh my god. Okay, I need to watch it now. I've avoided it for so long. I need to watch it now.
There's no avoiding The Room because, okay, this is what I'll say.
We're all
It's-
in the room. The
it's
room is our
bad.
existence.
It's
Oh, God.
like what makes The Room bad is that he thought he was making a good movie.
Oh, of course.
But it's funny as shit, man. Like, it's so odd. Like Denny, who's like their neighbor, who like hangs out with them a lot. There's like a moment where like he comes into their house. They decide to go upstairs to have sex. They start like playing on the bed. He jumps in the middle, and he's just like, "I just like to watch you guys." That's the line from The Room. But Tommy gives himself all the best lines.
Oh, well, of course.
Don't touch me, motherfucker.
Wow.
I'm fed up with this world.
I am fed up with this world.
Hello, doggy.
Hello, Dougie.
Hello. That's the one that I know. Like that's the one other one than the
Yeah,
obvious.
you
Or
can
the "You're tearing me apart, Lisa."
Yeah.
That's the other
Yeah,
one.
At Lisa. Anyway,
That's the one I hear the most.
that's
though,
your
yeah.
sex life.
That's literally has to be written to be comedy. There's no way
Anyway.
that can't be written to be
No.
comedy.
Dude, watch the Disaster Artist movie. It was not. He fought it. Or read the book, like Tommy. And that's the thing. If you listen to, or read the book from Greg and everything, like if you talk to Tommy now, it was fully intentional to be a comedy. Read that book. That was Tommy's Manos, The Hands of Fate. I have invested all my money into this very serious film,
Mm.
and
We're going to speak about the real peak of cinema right now. There was a film that got made that in the special features, these people went to all of these trade shows and all this stuff. And they're like, we knew we were making a comedy at heart. We just knew it was going to be something special. And then in a different special feature on the same thing, they're like, we meant it to be special, to be serious intentionally, but then it just became what it was. And we were happy with that. I'm of course talking about the smash block hit Velocipaster. So it has
The reverse of that, however, is Batman and Robin, to where on the behind the scenes,
they talk shit.
Everybody's just like, yeah, we knew it was bad. Chris O'Donnell is literally quoted saying, yeah, I felt like I was making a toy commercial.
And the best part is there's an actual recorded clip of Joel Schumacher going, remember, guys, it's a commercial. And
like,
when?
Dude, he apologized in that documentary. That's where the famous Joel Schumacher apology came from, because he's like, I was just making it. And if you know any of the backstory of that movie, you can't blame him, because like Batman Returns came out, and although it did well financially, critically, it got panned, and there was all the McDonald's, parents group stuff. So when they did Batman Forever, they were more just like, so it's Batman, but we're kind of just treating this like any other action movie. Then it comes out, breaks box office records. And so then when it came to Batman and Robin, everybody wanted their hand in the cookie jar on that. Kenner literally went to Joel Schumacher. I was like, so we started making these toys, so fit this into the movie somewhere. So I really think Joel Schumacher was like, fuck it. I'm just going to have crazy fun with this. I'm not going to make a serious movie like the last one.
Yeah.
Good on him.
Yeah.
Good on Joel Schumacher, man.
A lot of people, I'm one of the few people that like legit one of my favorite movies of all time is Batman Forever.
Dude, I have a full episode of my series called Second Look where I talk about it, and I'll gladly admit here, Val Kilmer is my favorite Bruce Wayne. Not Batman, that's still Michael Keaton, but when it comes to Bruce Wayne, it's Kilmer.
To me, the perfect level of they understood the level of cheese throughout it was Batman Forever. And before we get off and get on the topics, the thing about that Tommy Lee Jones quote when they talk about meeting up in that when he's talking to Howard Stern, I cannot sanction how goofy you are in this movie. Motherfucker, do you remember when you're sitting there calculating like an idiot, flipping a coin 14 times because you can't get the result you want? Do you remember how goofy you acted in that movie?
In defense of Tommy Lee Jones, when the cameras weren't rolling, he was Tommy Lee Jones.
Well, I get that.
When the cameras weren't rolling, Jim Carrey was the Riddler.
I get that.
So, like, to me, I'm just like, because that's always, I say, everyone's like, it's always like, meanwhile, in the movie, and it's Tommy Lee Jones being Jack Nicholson's Joker. But I'm just like, I can totally understand, because to Tommy Jones, he's like, well, this is the role and this is how I have to play. But afterwards, I don't do this. I don't know what he's doing. What is that? Did Joel just find a mental patient and put him in this movie? Like, you gotta think, like, they're making that movie like a year after he wins the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for Fugitive. And he's like, this is who I'm working. I'm working through the dude who talked through his ass in a movie. Like, Joel, what the hell, man? I'm an Oscar-winning actor. But I love Tommy Jones. I stand that, man. Because he just knows exactly who he is and doesn't give a shit. Like, there's that clip of that horrible interviewer, and he's just like,
I've heard he's the worst person to attempt to interview on the planet. Him and Harrison Ford are supposedly the honest, just worst.
Oh yeah,
what are you talking about? Harrison Ford is great when he's interested in a topic. He'll gladly talk about it.
Interested.
Okay, but here's the problem: is for 40 years, every time he tries to promote a movie, it's always like, so how about Han Solo?
But I've seen interviews where they don't bring up Han Solo, and he still is like, so in this scene, what was your motivation for that? And I had to shoot the scene.
Money was.
Well, I don't like Harrison Ford, so
he just dives on in. He's waiting for the waves to part, and he just.
I'm sorry. You want to repeat that? Just saying. You want to talk about my favorite actor?
Harrison Ford is whack.
No,
but yeah, it's just I don't think that his roles are like I don't know. I like the movies that he plays in, but I don't ever want to see a movie that he's in because he's in it ever. Like, and I don't get the impression that I ever will want to see a movie that he is in because he is in it. I just think that he happens to play charismatic characters that kind of are all very similar in those movies, and it's just fine, which is fine. There's plenty of actors that are like that, but he certainly isn't like worthy of note, in my opinion.
I would obviously I make jokes, but like you're welcome to your opinion. I don't really give a shit because I have everything to care about. I would say I'm not sure if you've seen the movies. I believe it's What Lies Beneath and Mosquito Coast.
What Lies Beneath is really good.
Check both of those out.
Then
And
come
that
back,
shows
then
Harrison's
start
read.
flapping your gums.
Like, and look, let's be honest here. Harrison Ford, the dude didn't become a successful actor until he's 35. He was making most of his money doing carpentry. And so, yeah, Star Wars and Indiana Jones hit big, and then he just kept getting offers to do kind of similar roles. But let's be honest, man's got kids to feed and a couple of wives to pay out alimony to.
Just a couple.
You kind of understand, that. Hey,
I mean, certainly
I get
there
paid to
are
be-
actors that are feeding their families quite well and acting their butts off, you know?
Harrison Ford, I mean, have you
Yeah.
seen Witness? Because that's an incredible film. If you've never seen Witness, that's another one to check out.
I
That's
will
what he got
go
nominated for.
His Letterboxd profile, and I'll just start watching movies.
I would
Yeah,
agree
no,
with
'cause
him on
I-
What Lies Beneath. Seriously, What Lies Beneath, in my opinion, is
Eh.
incredibly good.
Oh, and Mosquito Coast, that's another one. And if you want a younger, like, fun American Graffiti, he's not a main character in it, but he's fantastic in his
Yeah, he
role
only
in
he
it.
only has like maybe one or two
He's
scenes
the-
in that, but
he-
he's still a lot of fun.
Which is funny because the movie was influenced by American Graffiti, but it's like Ben Affleck and Daisy Confused. He's not in it a lot, but you remember both of them were in those movies, in those roles.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, again, I'm just a big Harrison Ford fan, so
I'll
just
take it under
gotta think
advisement.
praise the man, but
There you go.
whatever. I don't care because I'm an adult and I don't have to base my entire personality around my favorite actor. Yeah, I'm looking at some of you film bros who are like, I love Robert De Niro, the man can do no wrong. Yeah, Dirty Grandpa. Hmm? You can do no wrong? Really? You sure about it's just John Cena. Are you sure about that?
yeah. It's like wrong. Wrong.
Wrong.
Wrong. There you go. Yeah. Wrong.
Yes, bro.
Wrong.
Yeah.
You're so wrong.
Isn't that? Is it?
Fake news.
If I'm thinking of the
Wrong.
if I'm thinking of the right scene, isn't it Kevin Spacey in Superman?
Whoa.
No, in what the
Superman Returns.
Superman Returns when he screams that Clark
Yeah.
wrong.
Wrong.
That's what I'm,
No,
yeah, that's
it's
what
at
I'm
That's
seeing.
good too. There's so
Oh,
much
It's
that
at
Lois,
wrong.
at Lois.
It's
Okay.
at
Wrong,
Lois
wrong,
when he's like,
wrong,
say,
wrong.
when he's like, say the thing again. Say the line, and he's like, no, the other one. She's like, Superman save it's wrong.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
that's what it
Dude,
was.
He acted his butt. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say anything good about Kevin Spacey, but I mean, he kind of acted his butt off in that movie. Like he was actually really good.
This video will just get taken down, but it's fine.
It's fine.
Okay.
I'm not making any money
We can talk
regardless.
about it. Yeah, no, he's one of the best part. Him and Brandon around for like the best parts of a movie that I think is fine. Has a lot of moments.
The plane scene was good.
There's
plane-
okay. So
Yeah.
I'm a huge Superman
parts of it.
fan. So there's that's the thing. It's a movie made up of small moments, like the moment when Superman is up in space, listening to all the problems and bad things, and having to select what to go after. Great. The moment when he has Lois and he brings her up into the sky and he asks her, "What do you hear?" and she says, "I hear nothing," and he goes, "I hear everything." That's great.
Yeah.
Kevin Spacey has a lot of good moments, but it's ultimately a movie that was so hell-bent on having to be like the Donner movies that I think it would have been a better movie if they just made a Superman movie and had, if they wanted to have their Superman be kind of like Chris Reeves and their Lex Luthor kind of like Gene Hackman, I think that would have been fine. Instead of like, oh, no, this is a sequel to Superman 2, even though Superman 2 takes place in 1981, and this movie is supposed to take 5 years after that, and yet somehow they have flip phones, flat screen TVs, but we're just not going to talk about that, are we, Brandon?
No.
You know, I think it's funny you mentioned that because I feel like, you know, I think the real answer to what people want in any movie, but especially in a Superman movie, is that no one knows, including them. No one knows what we want until we get it. But I hear the criticism a lot, especially with, you know, people like us, podcasters and video essayists and stuff like that. They usually say like, oh, this movie and other movies is a criticism that's used a lot, is there's a lot of moments, but they're disconnected or disjointed. They don't come together. But it's like, I think in the end of the day, that's what all movies are anyway. Just like disparate thoughts, disparate little memories in your mind or GIFs on Twitter. You know, it's like, that's all you ever remember anyway.
I don't disagree with that, but I think there are like some of my favorite movies like Rocky and Superman the movie and stuff like that. It's just like, that is true. There are moments I pick out, but I think the overall package, you're like, well, there's like
how you
500 moments, whereas the Superman Returns, it's like, well, there are 5. And then there's a lot of other moments that I don't want to remember.
I see.
It's yeah. But and I do agree with you, and I've had conversations with friends on Twitter about this where I'm like, audiences never know what they want. They just want good movies. 2 examples to say.
What audience want are good movies.
Yeah.
It's weird. You have to make that distinction. Because it's like, good movies are what audiences want. No. What audience wants are good movies.
No, because you look at like 2000. What audience member was asking for a Roman epic? And yet Gladiator came out and it's incredible. You know, in 92, I think it is. No one was making Westerns anymore.
Yeah.
Clint Eastwood makes Unforgiven, and it's fantastic. It's just like, you know, because you look at like when Twister comes out and that sort of revitalizes the disaster movies, and then you just get a gluttony of them. And it's just like, no, Twister wasn't good because it was a disaster movie. It was good and audiences liked it because it was just a fun movie for the summer. And that's where Hollywood gets it wrong, is they're like, oh, well, clearly they like Westerns, so we got to just make a bunch of Westerns. It's like, no, they just liked Unforgiven because it was a good movie. You know, like Troy came out because Gladiator did so well. And it's like, no, they just liked that movie because it was good. And I think you see with these comic book stuff, it's just like, well, there were a couple in the, you know, early aughts that were just really good, and now it's just like, that's all we have.
But the thing is, like, I don't know, I think that the franchising, and especially what we're seeing now, where companies like Disney are making movie after movie after movie that are successful, right? And people are actually watching them, actually plays a lot into, I think, their mentality. Like, oh, like people like this, they'll like this. Because it's like, they always do. They keep coming back, you know? It's like,
no, and that's true. It's funny because I believe it was Inside Out. I'm not sure if it's officially announced, but there's sort of rumblings of a sequel is happening.
It's official now.
Oh, it is. Mike and mine's mutual friend Manning was talking about that. He was like, man, I was really kind of hoping Inside Out would be like a standalone movie. And I was like, when it comes to Disney, like, what is standalone movies anymore? Case in point, and we talked about it last week, Hocus Pocus literally got a sequel like almost 30 years later. Like, nothing gold can stay, Pony Boy. Nothing gold. Speaking of which, when's The Outsiders Part 2 coming out? When's Coppola going to be like?
We'll talk about that later.
When's Coppola coming out with Outsiders Part 2? We got to catch up with Pony Boy. It's like, C. Thomas Howell isn't doing anything.
I just want a sequel to Heavyweights. Can we get that? What are we doing here?
Look,
like, why?
Let's be honest. If it gets a lot of views on Disney Plus, you know Disney will make a sequel to it, and Ben Stiller probably will come back.
Oh, gladly. He's never going to get to play freaking White Goodman again, which is basically just who he was in Heavyweights.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would relinquish a sequel that I really cared about, like that I would like to see come out. I would relinquish that if I could be promised that a spiritual successor to a movie would come out. Like the idea that something can have within it imbued the ideas and the themes and the feeling, the mood, the tone, the stories, the magic that made you love a certain movie, like to bring that back. Like, for instance, Joker 2, you know, like we don't need Joker 2. It's like, listen, it might be good, but you'd be better off bringing what you brought to the original movie to a different project. You know,
it's like instead of Scorsese doing Casino, he did
Goodfellas too.
Yeah, which is fine. It's like sequels are really, they are a significant cultural problem that we have, like a serious problem. I believe. I stand by that.
Yeah, and it's like with Joker, I'm one of the people that unbelievably loved that movie. Just cherished it. I thought it was really cool. It has some of my favorite moments. Like I can't remember the midget's name. That like after
Oh, the door.
Yeah, when he kills him and he's like waiting to leave because the psychopath just shot his friend.
And he can't open the
felt so
door.
genuinely scared for him.
Yeah.
I was like, that is a great moment. But then all of a sudden I'm like, cool. If you want to make more DC movies like this, pick someone else. Do a weird political thriller with Lex Luger. Or oh my lord, Lex Luthor.
Get out of Gotham. I'm so sick and tired.
Do something else.
Listen,
this is coming from a guy that has Batman tattoos. Do
more
something
serious,
else.
more adult movies that aren't Batman. I'm so sick and tired of every time anyone tries to take any DC character and make them like do a serious, earnest take on them. People lose their minds. But it's Batman again and again and again. It's like I'm so sick of this. It's like he might as well just be a cop, like he's literally just a cop in a cape.
Well, it's one of those things where there's some weird thing that DC is just never going to get out of where they're like, our other movies haven't done good, but we know if we try really hard on this Batman movie, it'll do good. And again, I don't know what other
It always does. It always does well.
Yeah, I liked it, but again, then it's like, cool. I liked the Batman. Thought I was going to freaking hate it, but it turned out really well. Because I was like, do I really need another one? Then I watched it. I'm like, okay, I really like. Put the effort you put into that over here.
Whereas I wasn't really a fan of that Batman movie. I thought there were moments, but overall, it was just like, Whereas, comparatively, another DC project that came out, not around the same time, but a little before, Peacemaker, thought was incredible. And that was like, who was asking for this? And yet James Gunn was just like, I'm going to give you one of the greatest comic book TV shows ever.
Still haven't watched Peacemaker, but I did really love the Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Oh, the Suicide Squad is great, but Peacemaker it's so I don't want to say anything since you said you haven't seen it, but I'll pull up just the opening titles on YouTube sometimes just to watch it because it's just like
one thing that's weird that we'll get into other stuff, but it's like I want more movies to when I watched Joker and Gotham, I felt like afterwards I needed to take a shower. I want more movies to give me those type of tangible reactions.
I've heard that Blonde is going to make you feel like that.
Really? Okay.
I've heard a lot of negative things about Blonde this week.
Well, I've heard all the takes about Blonde.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, everyone agrees though that you're gonna have to take a shower
for one reason or another.
That's the one thing that you're gonna have to do, regardless of whether you like it or not.
I know Netflix is they're even though it's NC-17, the brand itself is family friendly. But I'm just saying, if you market Blonde as it'll make you want to take a shower with Ana de Armas, I'll probably watch it.
That's the tagline. You'll want to take a shower without Ana de Armas.
Honestly, though, let's talk about NC-17 a little bit too. We're going all over the place, but I think that streaming NC-17. There's something about streaming. Well, to be honest, I'm even deeper than just that. I think streaming is a sellout. It's like a cop out, in my opinion. But that's a deeper discussion that we can still go into, but just not at this particular moment. But NC-17 streaming, it's what are you doing? It's what are you doing? It's so silly. The idea that you'd have, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. For instance, when you put something on streaming, most things on streaming are more adult oriented anyway, because one, you have to have your own credit card, you have to have your own expendable income, your own TV, your own stuff to be able to, you have to buy all these things to facilitate. Whereas you can just hop into someone's van, go to a movie, buy a ticket, watch a movie, come back. You could be a kid, watch a movie as long as someone lets you in, right? But with streaming, you have to have all these different things. It guarantees that most people who are streaming content are going to be mature. They're going to be adults, right? Mm-hmm. So it's most stuff on there is adult oriented. So there's no real reason to really to make
the only argument against that is movies like Blonde and Irishman do get theatrical releases as well, in which case they need ratings.
Right. That's a good point. That's a good point.
For example, Blonde is
because they want to be your award season. They want to get the award season. That's the only reason they do it, though, which is such a cop out. Oh goodness, so bad.
Well, that's just because the Oscars for whatever reason, or like if you
Well,
don't
good,
release your movie in theaters in LA and New York, you're not going to be considered. That was, I remember John Schnepp when Death of Superman Lives What Happened came out. A bunch of people were like, why was this not nominated for Best Documentary? And he was like, well, it couldn't be considered. We only had premiere in LA, not in New York.
Oh, so it has to see. This is the thing. What if
You have to get both coasts
For at
you
least
have to get
1
west
week.
and east for 1 week to
darn
not
those
considered.
coastal elites?
I'm a
Yeah,
Midwesterner. I don't care. I sit in the middle.
Yeah, right. I'm
Yeah.
the freaking
You don't
flyover state.
get
So,
to
you know,
see
like-
They don't care about your.
I just get to be cold. I don't get either.
It's
They should make it
It's
to where you have to be in so many theaters all together, because they should be encouraging theatrical films, not just for the coast. It's so stupid. Like, oh, I was actually gonna pat
you
them on the
saying
back
the
for once.
Academy is stupid?
They are
Oh.
terrible. They're terrible, man.
Oh, then come on.
But man, I have feelings. Ugh.
It's not like there's tons
This
of
just
videos
in,
on
water
YouTube
is
about
still
how the
indeed wet.
Oscars got it wrong.
I didn't even tune in when one dude punched another guy out. I didn't even care or slapped him. You know,
Slap. I was watching that live, and I was like, "Was that a joke?"
I didn't.
I
Watch
honestly
it
thought
live.
it was at first.
I had someone come up to me at work and was talking about this. Like, I don't remember how we got out about it, but like we were talking about the Sean Connery interview where he was talking about why you open hand someone.
That was
and
we
the-
were talking about that.
Yeah, we were talking. Yeah, just the one we were the last recording when that slap happened. Someone was just like, yeah, that's why Will Smith did it, because if he would have actually punched him, he would have been charged with assault. I'm like, no. That's not how that works. No, that's not it.
Sean, that's not how it fucking works.
It's like,
I mean,
oh.
Now I'm just thinking of
it's kind of like a modern day
melding
rule of
Sean
thumb.
Connery
You know?
and Captain America with just Son.
Are you talking
Just
about the
fucking
Boondock
do.
Saints rule of thumb? And the rule of the thumb is like you can beat a woman with a stick as long as it's as big as your thumb. Well, they're not going to do any damage with that. You might make a rule of the wrist.
I've never seen Boondock Saints, so
There's this woman. They're in a meat packing plant, and she was talking about. I don't remember how it gets brought up, but this big.
is that Sean
burly-
Patrick Flannery movie?
Yes.
Okay.
And Norman Reedus. And she's just this
Norman Reedus, yeah.
bigger girl is giving the guy shit, and they're talking about rule of thumb, and then she's just like throughout that where it's like, yeah, I used to do with the beat women and all this. And he's like, yeah, but you're not gonna do any damage with their thumb now, are you? You ought to make a rule of the wrist. And she just boom. Boondock Saints is freaking great. I love that movie.
That's a
is-
movie I've been told about a lot, and I've just never
that might
seen
be
it anywhere.
my favorite. Oh boy, his name's escaping me. Norman Osborn.
Willem Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe. That might be my favorite Willem Dafoe movie ever.
It was great.
Then there's this part where the big part of it is they have these murder scenes and they're trying to figure out what they are, and you get both perspectives. It's great. But there's this guy Greenlee who is the biggest idiot on the planet, and he's trying to discuss this guy gets killed by a fat dude, and then he just comes and he's like, well, according to Greenlee, we got a serial squasher around here because he got hit by some huge fucking guy. Trying his best to make a Bostonian accent. Oh, Willem Dafoe's a great. Well, what about if it was 3 guys with 2 guns? What if it was 1 guy with 6 guns? Really, Greenlee? 1 guy with 6 guns? You're telling me it was 1 guy with 6 guns?
I'm sure it's funny in practice.
They're finally making that 3rd movie, by the way. I can't believe that.
There's a second one as well.
There's a second one that
Well,
I mean,
Norman
plot is not
Reedus
as
needs
great,
some money
but-
stream after this year.
I think Sean Patrick Flannery needs it a lot more than Norman Reedus.
Probably.
I can remember the last time I saw him in.
Yeah, he's one of those guys who was big in the 90s and then he just kind of quietly just like went away.
The last thing I
Dude,
saw
the
him
most
in was
depressing thing in the
Jensen
world
Ackles
was
movie.
watching Oliver Harper's review and retrospective on Lost in Space from 98, finding out that Matt LeBlanc's role was originally meant for Sean Patrick Flannery. I'm like, fuck,
Oh wow.
that would have actually been good. Is it Matt LeBlanc?
True depression.
And I like Matt LeBlanc, kind of, but I'm just like, dude, you
It's
were
what-
never. No.
The biggest what if, and this is a movie that is one of my personal favorite movies of all time. but everyone who I talk to thinks it is just utter dog shit, and it's the worst thing that Jim Carrey's ever done. I love the Cable Guy.
Me
I
too.
love the Cable Guy, but
I
get
don't
so
love
much
it,
shit
but I
about love it.
think it's funny.
Yeah, like originally that was supposed to be Chris Farley, and like trying to picture that movie, but with Chris Farley, who was originally supposed to be, that is a
Mhm.
completely different movie.
Mhm.
Well, that's
You
like
do not
Shrek.
have that same movie. Like, yeah,
It's like
and-
Shrek. If Chris
yeah.
Farley actually did it, like totally different movie.
yeah.
By the way,
it's
have you
not Mike
seen
Myers,
early concept art?
Yeah, of course. I've seen the clip, the one clip they released where it's Chris
It's
Farley, and I'm just
weird.
like, as a kid who grew up on Trek, I'm just like,
No.
that Scottish voice, like the Mike Myers mannerisms, like
That's what
I
makes it.
love Chris Farley. Do not get me wrong, the man is one of SNL's all time greats. But I'm like,
Yeah.
obviously, I would have loved for Chris Farley to continue going. It's like John Belushi, like, God, we lost you too soon. You had so many more great movies to make. But I in a world where he gets to live, but also DreamWorks is like, this isn't working out. Let's bring in Mike Myers. Like a Back to the Future situation where Eric Stoltz still got to go and make movies, but they smartly bring in Michael J. Fox. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, they would have never brought in Mike Myers if Chris Farley
Yeah,
was able
it's
to complete it.
another one. of
Although
those
that is a
things
question. If he had completed the movie,
would they have still
like-
done it?
well, the question is, one, is it as successful? Because who knows? And two, does the franchise go on after that? Do they
Honestly,
get a sound
good
alike,
question.
or
I don't know.
because like, let's just say it's as successful as it was. Like, can the franchise continue? Because look, sound alikes and sequels are nothing new. James Arnold Taylor famously replaced Michael J. Fox in the Atlantis sequel. Like, it's a
They're
normal, you know,
Pause. There's an Atlantis sequel.
direct to DVD. Yes.
About that. So what Disney will
Here
often
goes
do.
Qualification needed.
Yes, exactly.
It's like, it sucks.
No, what Disney will sometimes do is like they'll pitch like an animated series based off a movie, but if that series like doesn't get the full order, it'll instead become a direct to video.
It was a return to Jafar.
That
Yeah.
was like
Except
I
return
did
to
it.
Jafar is like that was. Although I think Tarzan worked because Tarzan did Tarzan and Jane, but then I feel like I remember there being a Tarzan series that came.
There
out.
was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so like they did that a lot to where there's like Return to Jafar was the first one that did it to where that was a sequel to Aladdin while also being a pilot for an Aladdin series.
Mhm.
And actually King of Thieves was the theatrical finale
That was the conclusion to the series.
to that. But yeah, there's some like Tarzan and Jane, which actually went on to be an actual show. But then yeah, it's stuff like the Atlantis sequel, which was like, well, that show didn't get picked up. So
And then like that I did
Or
not
Sky
know
High.
until about 2 years ago that there was a Mulan sequel.
yeah, that's
Oh
Did-
god,
horrible.
don't get me
Didn't know
started on
that.
Just watch the nostalgic Kirk review. You're fine. You don't have to actually see the movie.
You know, imagine if Disney actually made their movies like the original stories that they're based on.
Oh, completely different.
the
Yeah.
one
A lot of
that
those movies.
I'm
Little
not-
Mermaid would not have been nearly as loved if that original story was told in '88.
I would love the dark original Mermaid story. I would love that.
Oh my God.
That's so.
It's heavy, but I'm all about that.
Heavy is the understatement of understatements, especially for that one.
Heavy.
I was just
That was
like-
not
I try
what
and
again?
when you
Well,
talk about the
these
Grimm
are-
fairy tales origins of some of those, people are just like, they'd never write anything like that. It's just like that. I'm like, no, I can give you some links. Just
There-
go read. It's gonna
There's
start you.
there's a story, a Netflix animation called Bubble that's loosely based on the original Little Mermaid, and it's got some existential horror elements in there, and it's really good.
Yeah.
I mean, well, it's not good actually. Yeah, it's not good, but it's interesting.
That's a review.
It's
The instant callback. Wait, hold
It's
on.
good.
It's actually terrible.
Yeah, I didn't want to send you guys to your impending doom.
It's a great idea. Horrible execution.
I just love how that was like, yeah, it's like wait, hold on, stop. Wait.
Look, don't actually watch it. Just listen to me explain it.
Well, I mean, you can't. It's not terrible. It's just, it's confusing and it's interesting and it's notable. It's very notable, but it's not like entertaining by any stretch of the imagination.
That needs to be on a DVD box somewhere. For
that needs to be a description of just a movie. I don't even know what the movie is. It's got moments. It's that, but it's just not entertaining.
Although that's like when I see movies and we're reviewing them on Take 3, and if I feel so indifferent to it, I just say that movie had a director who directed it, actors who acted in it, and a writer who wrote it.
Yeah.
That's our Morbius.
It was a
review.
movie. It's like Harry Styles' review. That's like a real, it's like a movie you watch in theaters.
Yes, exactly. There was, I can't remember what it was. Somebody's letterbox was for Morbius was like, this was the most moviest movie to ever have a runtime. It was directed to scenes unlike anything that wasn't.
I saw
it was so long. Minutes. It was awesome.
So my soon-to-be brother-in-law's bachelor party was a couple of weeks ago, and they put on Morbius. I watched like 15 minutes and was like, that's enough. I don't think I need to see any more of that movie ever.
Did you get to the part where the dance?
No, dude. I literally
where Matt Smith becomes Fully Maguire.
When I say 15 minutes, that's not I watched the entire movie, but I watched. No, I literally watched 15 minutes, and then we went to play volleyball, and I did not watch it again.
No, I try to explain that movie to people. They're like, "What happened?" I'm like, "Well, Morbius trapped some bats." Matt Smith became Tobey
Doctor
Maguire.
Who is there.
He became Tobey Maguire after he acquired Venom. Like, and he just literally is. He does the hair swoop. He does the dance moves. He's got the.
It's not the same dance. They actually put there. I saw this meme where someone actually put Tobey Maguire and they were singing it back and forth. They even had to wear. Tobey Maguire threw Matt Smith his jacket.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's
it was so good. Now, hey, my hot take with that movie is that it does not deserve the hate. It's just a very
wait.
average.
Which one?
Morbius.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it doesn't deserve like the vitriolic hate. Like, there's nothing in there to hate. It's just like a pretty play by the numbers action movie with like vampire elements to it,
Memes.
Yeah. Well, when something becomes memed, you have to like hate the thing that you're memeing and use the memes. It's like weird. It's this weird thing where it's like you have you're so disgusting. I'm gonna use you for memes. It's weird. The movie's not that bad, but the memes are good.
There's only 2 movies in my entire life that I almost walked out of.
Ooh.
One, and I drastically regret that I never did it because Deadpool was in the next theater over, and I could have just watched Deadpool. Was fucking Zoolander 2.
No, was it that bad?
That movie made me want to suck the life out of the entire room. There's a literal point where Will Ferrell's character is literally pumping pasta out of a machine. It's horse pasta. Made by whores. And then I found out later that horse pasta is a real thing. I thought that was just a dumb joke that they made up. It was literally a pasta that was mostly ate by prostitutes because it was cheap. But there's just like, it's so much stuff. Like, a big joke is the fact that Ben Stiller gets delivered disc Netflix in a cabin in the woods. That's like one of their marquee funniest jokes in the entire movie. And that
I don't know how it plays out, but that is kind of.
He rides Penelope Cruz like a jet ski. That's their other funniest joke. I love that first movie so much. It wasn't quite Boss Baby. That's what irritated me. So yeah,
I mean,
but what movies can be?
And then Morbius. That is one where I was just like, I was waiting. It felt like a movie that, and I've said this.
You were waiting for Iron Man to show up or something like that, or Samuel Jackson.
I was waiting for them to realize.
Oh, now it's good. Woo!
I was waiting for them to realize what they wanted that movie to be. No, it got worse once they introduced something that was formerly in the MCU.
Yeah, it was. I agree.
That is the dumbest post-credit scene sequence I've seen in my entire life. It
was
literally
not just one, 2.
It contradicts the
What?
previous scene too. When the second one literally makes the first one make no fucking sense.
Yeah.
And it breaks the rules of it.
What are
of
we
it
talking
was.
about?
Okay.
The Morbius post credit scene was literally like it like single-handedly like if anyone said the movie was terrible because of the post credit scene, they'd be like, oh okay, yeah, well, of course. But if you just don't watch that, it's not terrible. It's just like an action movie, you know.
It's a movie that I felt like had literally no idea.
Wait, someone tell me what that post-credit scene
I'll
is.
tell you.
Again, it's not in the
I'll-
first 15
I'll
minutes.
I'll
so
explain
I
it to you.
haven't
Okay,
seen it.
so at the end of do you ever see the trailers?
Yeah.
Okay,
You talking about
that-
Michael
you
Keaton?
know that Michael Keaton's in it.
Yeah.
You saw
Didn't guess
literally
that.
80% of the post-credit scene.
Oh. Really?
Now hold on. Like you remember at No Way Home that spell that gets screwed up by Doctor Strange brings in all the people that knew Peter was Spider-Man. Cool. They're not going to break that rule at all. I'm just going to explain. It totally made sense. So that the sky glows purple. Morbius, after just being a grand old guy, literally only thing good he did was take out Matt Smith. Goes to randomly. Michael Keaton gets transported into a cell in Morbius's world. The spell somehow sucked him out and threw him into the world where he was. Because that's how that spell worked.
You know why they did that? Because probably that's their way of being like, Michael Keaton is never doing another one of these movies. And technically, if he doesn't know who Spider-Man is, that kind of means the events of the first movie are completely different.
Just wait. It gets dumber. It gets dumber. So anyway, he gets zipped into a cell where they're just like, well, you didn't do anything wrong here, so we're just going to let you go. And he just walks out. He's never been in this fucking world before. Ever. He's literally been there 5 minutes at this point. He has now found his exact suit. He was zipped over without it. In a leather jacket, just in the cell. And then he gets in there without it. And then that's the post-credit scene. He's released on bail. Because
was there a man with a fedora and a trench coat?
Nope, nothing else. Then there's credits playing. And then there's another one where Morbius is just morbing his way down the highway with the with the top down and his hair flowing. He goes to a random desert.
Yeah.
And then he comes down in full Vulture getup, the exact one he had in the
They're
MCU.
not even in the same scene. They're like literally like looking. You could tell their eyes aren't even. They're filmed separately, and then they like, oh my god, it's cringe.
And then he goes, hey, and you could tell this is 80-yard in, by the way, because the pitch is so wrong. He's like, hey, Sir Michael Morbius, I heard some good things about you. I'm not sure quite why I'm here, but I think it's because of this Spider-Man guy. I think you and me could do some good together. End credits.
Dude, do you remember when Michael Keaton was Batman?
He was really good as Vulture, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, that was the best part of that movie. I didn't like.
And then they do that. My favorite part, we'll get off this and then we'll get into the topics we had.
Please, I'm so
my favorite part, Tyrese Gibson needs to learn how to shut the hell up. Every time he talks about a movie, he puts all of his foot up to his crotch in his mouth every time he talks. This movie, he was like, nah, dog, we're in the MCU completely. We're so in the MCU, it doesn't matter. Trust me, it is so in the MCU. They literally grab a character out of the MCU and fucking chuck them into their movie, showing that they're not in the MCU, to show that this is where all of Sony's bullshit happens and everything else happens over here.
Yeah.
Tyrese, just stop talking.
Like the
I
funny
like
thing
you as
about
an
that,
actor. Just stop.
Yeah, so they're just so if I had everything my way, I would make it to where they're doing it to where their universes are distinctly separate. They can have their own creative playground to do what they want. And that they would advertise and market their movie. They'd pay their people enough money where they feel like they didn't have to go and say stupid stuff, like the MCU does, and then just prosper, People. Now this is the thing, right? I think eventually it'll come to a head where you'll have to basically set expectations. It's like what's going on right now with the Snyder verse, right? With WB, they're gonna string the Snyder cut fans along for as long as possible. And in the same way, Sony is going to do that with the with the MCU fans. They're going to be like, oh yeah, we could, yeah, totally, we could, maybe. And then they're going to just do that forever, so that way they keep on getting them to come back and watch the movies, but they don't ever have to commit like to the MCU, which I don't want them to do anyway. But it's like that's just the world we live in, where it's like the MCU has got this hold on them that they're going to have to like play this like lip service and have 1 foot in, 1 foot out, which is going to make the movies worse, but it sucks.
Well, I'm going to be honest. As much as I like the Amazing Spider-Man movies, they wanted to have an MCU in their second movie.
Yeah, they did.
So they weren't exactly trying to take their time to build something significant.
Yeah, I mean that's what they've always done that. Like the whole Sony team, what's his name, Avi or whatever.
Avi.
Yeah, like in the third Spider-Man movie, they tried to ramp it up to turn it into something, and then it kind of like things fell apart.
And it's not even Amazing Spider-Man 2 is not alone in that. That's similar things in a movie that I do love, but Batman v Superman also tried to do the world building a little bit too quick, to where you're just like, we need to make a movie that introduces so many elements that we could splinter out into solo movies, and it's just like
everyone always quotes like the one scene where Bruce gets the computer and you see like the things. It's like, yeah, that's like the one thing. Like there's so many of those things in every other super movie. The fact that you actually are like you see that, but then it's like, and it's a big deal. It's like the reason why it's a big deal is because it's the only thing. It's like it's the only thing. Like everything else is done so nuanced, in that movie. That stands out by comparison. No, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'm just
that's the thing where it's like that's partially kind of why I thought BVS did a little bit better, because I'm like, I can be okay with just accepting that Wonder Woman shows up, because people can have done things.
Also, they do establish her in the movie. It's not like she just randomly. They establish her with Bruce Wayne and the fact that
the legit only thing I thought that was a bit rushing it, I was like, Doomsday in the second movie, I thought was a bit much.
And look, Death of Superman is my favorite graphic novel of all time. I love that story. I was like, this is the second movie, and not just this is the second movie. This is the third act. Like it's not even like Doomsday's introduced in the first act and then starts rampaging all for the second, and then the third act is,
Yeah, I thought about that a lot, and
but seeing the trio together fighting Doomsday,
that was awesome,
freaking awesome.
Wonder Woman's theme in BVS is just brings tears to my eyes,
dude. And Ben Affleck, he's one of my favorite Batman.
He is.
He's really good.
It's the little moments, like when Wonder Woman shows up right before that, when the lasers start. Oh shit!
Yes, that is a moment where it's like you get to see the facade that I'm the coolest motherfucker on the planet drop for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh shit!
Well, and again, that comes after the warehouse scene where he's so dominant, badass. Yeah. Like the moment where
he's fighting a bunch of thugs with guns.
Kill her. Yeah. I swear, it's like, I know you will. And then it's just like this giant behemoth super beam with laser eyes. And it's just like, oh, shit.
Like Batman under the facade, fully aware that he could get his ass
beat. Zack Snyder was clearly not referenced to this, but my favorite Indiana Jones moment is in Temple of Doom. It's when he's on the bridge scene and he sees the soldiers coming to him on both sides. Harrison Ford just quietly to himself goes, oh shit. Like, because it's just like, and that's Indiana Jones. That's, the great adventure. It's just like, okay, I'm a little over my head right now, aren't I?
Yeah.
That my favorite.
It's
I love it. And look, I'll be the first to say I like the theatrical cut of Justice League. I really like that movie. I don't care who knows it. I like that movie.
You're mumbling a lot, man. say it with your whole chest.
Say it with your whole chest.
No, I said, Mike, he's been following me on Twitter for years. I wanted to talk about that movie all the time.
Well, do you like Joss Whedon?
So this is the thing. I've never been I'm a Josh Whedon fan, but like Firefly is one of my favorite TV shows. I really like the first 2 Avengers movies. Like I like projects he's been a part of, but it's weird. I've never been like a like when Josh Whedon came in to replace him, I was like, oh, thank God Josh Whedon is here. I was just like, oh, he's made stuff
I never
like.
had a negative or a positive. It's just that
But he's done projects that I love. So
it was like Zach's having personal issues. I'm like, that is 1,000% more important than this.
Yeah,
movie.
I
And
wasn't
if
even
anyone
really
says
privy to that
otherwise,
stuff.
shut the hell up if anyone said otherwise.
Yeah.
Then they're like, it's Joss. I'm like, I get it. He did Avengers, but like that was the stylistic.
Yeah.
See, and that actually made sense to me. I was like, oh, they're replacing him. Oh, they got the guy who did the Avengers. I guess that kind of makes sense. He did a good job with the last team up movie. And I liked the team up movie he did. For me, the Snyder Cut, I think it's just way too long, man. That's from someone who loves these movies, but I'm just like, it's awesome. I own it on Blu-ray, but I haven't put it back in and watched the whole thing. I'll watch scenes from it. You know, like there's a lot of great scenes, but I'm just like 4 hours.
Yeah, I agree.
When I have it, and it's probably because I like the theatrical cuts. So I'm like, or I can watch a 2-hour version that I like instead of the 4-hour version.
The BVS, I prefer the BVS theatrical cut.
Okay. See, I like the Ultimate Edition more.
Same.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's like there's stuff like I like at the beginning of that movie when they put all the bodies together and the flamethrower comes out because watching the theatrical, I'm like, they shot all those people. How did Superman get blamed? And I'm like, oh, they burnt the bodies, so the heat vision. I'm like, oh, the seat being lined with lead. I'm like, that's how Superman couldn't see it. It wasn't that he was distracted. There's moments that they cut from the theatrical that you're like, oh, makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's interesting because with BVS, it's like, see, I prefer Man of Steel. I like the pace is perfect, the tone is perfect, the score is perfect. I think BVS has a better like iPod score, if you will, but I want to listen to the BVS music independently, but I think Man of Steel like perfectly integrates the visuals and the score to where it always swells at the perfect incline when the visuals are pumping at the right moment, and it just hits it.
Dude, it's flight. It's
the
just
Terraformer
the music
scene. I was like,
building
tears, man.
Okay, I have a theory about why we didn't get a Man of Steel 2, and it is because I think Man of Steel was meant to be in the Dark Knight universe. I think it was.
I've heard that.
If you look at the visual, if you look at the visual style of the movie, the fact that Chris Nolan was really involved in that movie, it made sense to me. But then with BVS, they were really trying to build out their MCU, and I think not having to deal with the fact that like, well, we can't really bring back Joker, like all this stuff. They're just like, okay, so quietly, Superman kind of got rebooted in BVS, so Man of Steel was just like, and everybody's like, oh, it can't because Superman, why wouldn't he have gone to Gotham and saved the nuke? I'm like, easy explanation. That all happened when he was in the middle of the ocean.
That is one of my things that I hate the most now that these movies exist within each other. Why wasn't he there?
Yeah.
We've had comics for years where they weren't there.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like, right there, I'm like, perfect explanation. I'm like, he was working on the deep sea fishing boat and they didn't hear about it. Also, he wasn't like a superhero at the time. He was just a dude who would just like save people when he was there, but he wasn't like, oh, gotta put my suit on and save the day.
I think that I'm strongly invested in Zack Snyder's what I believe to be, because we can't. I mean, I've watched so many interviews. I've talked about it. I've researched it. I've taken all this information in, and I have, I guess, a theory, but based on what I know and some of the things that I postulate. But I like his method to the superhero, where specifically Superman's universe, because you do run into this logistical problem where the more superheroes that exist, the less things you can excuse, right? So what he did, he's like, listen, the first superhero, like official superhero, not like superpowered being ever to exist ever in any capacity, but the first superhero is Superman. And that starts a chain that starts like, I think he described it as in one of his like SnyderCon or whatever, but basically they're like dominoes falling over. Once something happens, you can't go back. It's just like things keep forward until it reaches some sort of end, and then it's over. It's kind of like the anti-cinematic universe, where it's a 5-story arc, beginning, middle, end. It all crescendos. It all starts to until it hits this final, climax. I like that kind of thing, and I wish that we would do more of that, because it's like I want like these movies to make sense. I actually care about them enough to where I want them to make sense. And I would like to ask questions like, well, why wasn't he there? I mean, you shouldn't have to ask that. Like, I don't like comic books. It's like comic books don't make sense, but
it is interesting. And I do give credit to the ones who are able, like in Peacemaker, they actually do reference the Justice League, and they're like, yeah, this isn't important enough for the Justice League. That's why we're sending you. Like, they do make references in that, which I love. Like, that's great.
It's also like I've said this with Mike so many times, and I believe it's from a quote from a Let's Player that was playing through the Punisher game. You, after a while, and Marvel has the biggest problem with it in comics, if you steal a car in New York, you could get your ass beat from anyone from Reed Richards to Ghost Rider.
It's true. Yeah.
There's just so much just there.
Yeah. In reality, in the Marvel universe, crime should not be happening in New York City
at all.
Like, at all.
No.
And
because
that's the one.
There's like 900 different people who can stop you.
That's the legit only problem that I kind of have with the BVS movie. Is that Gotham is literally 100 yards from Metropolis.
Yeah. Also, imagine like, so you know how we have, like, when you have a bunch of people with power, they have issues within themselves, egos and the jurisdiction and all this sort of stuff. There's no way you can have hundreds and hundreds of superheroes in the same area without like some governing force. Like, honestly, they would become an issue to themselves.
That is kind of why I like Civil War so much, because they literally reference that. The Sokovia Accords is literally the government being like, yeah, we need to, or that, and look, that goes all the way back to Dark Knight Returns, where literally the government was like, you can't be superheroes anymore. Quit it. Stop.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I don't mind this corporate sort of universe where we have just, these superheroes and you kind of just forget about the little stuff because you just want to have fun. Like, listen, that's cool. But it's like, let's have one, like, just tour de force climactic universe where it's like, have you seen a movie called Good Time?
Yes.
No.
Yeah, it's got Robert Pattinson in it.
Okay.
It's made by the Safdie brothers, A24. But I like that movie so much because it's a great kind of like little experiment with consequences, where every time he does something, it adds these like consequences, which he kind of pushes off, but they never go away, and it keeps on getting himself into like deeper and deeper doo-doo as the movie goes along, and until the whole thing just blows up. And I love that because it's like that's what these movies could be across movies, where it's like every time someone does something, every time someone makes a decision, there's this true like feeling where it's like we have to reconcile this, and it's not going away. Like, this is still a problem, and I like that idea. Like, keep that linear progression.
That's funny you talk about that, because that's mid-'80s. That's why DC literally did Crisis on Infinite Earths, because they're like, we need to not have all these people in the same universe.
I like that comic. It wasn't a good comic, but it was fun to read. I read it so many
has
times.
one of those problems where they're just like, they're one of the ones that does it the worst. We did a little bit too much. We're rebooting again.
All right.
Oh, 2 years later? Sorry, again.
But to quote one of my favorite human beings in the whole world, George Lucas, we may have gone too far in a few places.
I love that so much. Like that, man, you're talking about the gradual escalation, like stuff going wrong until it finally just goes. You're an anime fan. You've watched Gurren Lagann, I hope?
Oh yeah, Gurren Lagann it's like power scaling actually done right. Like, it's the only anime where they do power scaling right.
Like, okay, Matt, it's my literal favorite. It's literally helped me turn my life around. I'm like, but it's
no drill the drill though, pierce to the vault of heaven.
Yes. Like, now imagine, Matt, I'm gonna show the very first episode. You have a dude in the head of a mech that's maybe 5 feet tall, fighting a 100-foot tall mech in a cave that literally can't move 2 inches to its right because it has no room to move. The last episode, they are dear God, insert blank when I actually talked about how big those fucking mechs are here. Its physical size can be nonetheless be estimated using available information. Estimates for its heights range from I can never fucking say this with a straight face. 348.48 billion light years to 10.45 trillion light years. Compared to the observable universe, which has a diameter of 93 billion light years, the Super Tangentoppa Gurren Lagann is 3.5 to 112 times longer than the observable universe. I can never read this stat without just like, are you fucking kidding me? They're literally throwing uninhabited galaxies at each other as projectiles. That's how big they are.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And it
Like
goes
frisbees.
It goes accurately. It gradually builds towards that. I tell people like they can't do that
And
gradually.
it pays off.
Yes.
And it pays off.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's so good because it's like, I don't know, it's cathartic. I would say that. It's because the problem with a lot of anime and comic book movies and other pop culture stuff where things naturally power scale and all of these things because people want to always follow this character to the next thing, to the next thing, the next thing. And it's a escalating habit. It's like, you know, you're an addict. You have to find the next bigger hit. So you have to like up the stakes, but you're not upping the stakes. You're just upping the implications because the stakes they can never actually play out. Like if the stakes are 2 times as bad, that means you're 2 times as likely to face a worse consequence as the last time. But that never actually happens because you have to see the characters happy and you know pumping their fists the next episode or whatever or movie.
Yeah.
So, but in Gurren Lagann, I think they do a really good job with because you're really centered on the main characters. It's not about his physical strength, but it's about his ability to overcome his own obstacles, you know?
Mm.
And he's had to suffer some losses that are permanent and very sudden at times. And the show really does convince you that things can go wrong, that you will have to face consequences for what you're doing and the journey you're going on.
Well, that's to bring it back to comic books. That's why Superman the movie is still my favorite because it's not a movie about Superman. It's a movie about a guy going, I have all these powers, and yet there are things that I can't do with them.
Yeah,
and there
that's
are things
what
that just have to happen.
Yeah.
You know, I mean that is
Acceptance.
and that is done literally in the beginning of the movie when he's at the grave of his father. He says to his mother, "All these powers I have, and I couldn't even save him."
My favorite thing ever that Superman has ever said. It is in a chunk at the end of Justice League Unlimited. He's talking about him and Batman are fighting Darkseid. And Batman is getting the ever-living shit kicked out of him because it's Darkseid. And he goes, Batman has one problem. For as long as he's drawing breath, he will not quit. Me, I have a different issue. And he fucking cold clocks him through a wall and starts talking about how every day I walk around living in a world of cardboard, thinking that I might hurt someone, hurt something if I go too hard.
I love that episode.
But you can take it, can't you, big guy? And just beats the crap out of him.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Yeah. So him being angry, like just him actually, like he's basically like, I want to be violent. I want to cut loose. I want to do something bad.
Well,
you know?
Smallville was really good at that too. Having Clark Kent realize like the limits he has to put on himself, like the great episode when he goes to Metropolis U and he learns that the football player has powers and has been using them, and he denies himself a football scholarship because he tells his parents, he's like, I can't say that I wouldn't use them.
Yeah.
Like so I can't do this. You know, I can't say that I would stop.
That was a really great episode.
Yeah.
It was.
Smallville was just great at doing
Yeah.
it. Those writers got Superman. Such a good show.
We haven't hit a topic and we're at an hour and a half. I don't mind it though. It's been really good.
It's turning into a trash takes podcast.
It pretty much is.
Well, I am here, so
hey, this is the most continual talk we've had on one of these podcasts yet, so I'm good with it. But anyway, one thing we kind of talked about, which we could bring in a little bit more of, the first topic that we brought up was good and bad adaptations.
Mm.
So that's kind of why I brought that up. It was going to be my topic was because of Edge Runners. That to me is a very good adaptation of something. And I would like to see more like it versus we get to see bad adaptations where it's like recently on Netflix, Bloodlines came out for Tekken. Really freaking good. A while ago, I want to say in 2003, they made a Tekken movie, live action. It was not good, I'll say. Like, finding the proper medium for an adaptation to me, like, it's getting better today, but it used to be very busted. Like, Cyberpunk is a video game. They made their own thing in there. Again, it's by Trigger, so I'm just happy. But they made a small story out of a thing that is 100-hour-long game if you want it to be, but made a 10-episode thing because you can't. We get thing where it's like, people are like, for a while, they were trying to make a Mass Effect movie. Each one of those games should be 130 hours long if you want them to be. You can't do that. Like with The Last of Us, they're making maybe 8 to 10 episode long, hour long each thing. You can add some stuff in between there and space that out. That makes sense because there's literal months where you don't see the characters, where you could add something pretty harmless and it spaces it out. I just was like, any adaptations are just the best and worst you can think of. Even though we've talked about that, that was the first thing I wanted to bring up because that kind of sparked it in my brain.
Another example of a bad video game adaptation, and one that really disappointed me, was Assassin's Creed from 2016.
Oh, you didn't like them only being in the past for 20 minutes?
I have no idea why they made the decisions they made.
Now, another thing, speaking on that, they just announced 4 Assassin's Creed games and an Assassin's Creed Netflix series. The Netflix series is where they're going to do all the future tense stuff and not go in the past. Do you like that or hate that?
Wrong move.
Why do I only want to watch future tense of Assassin's
It's a
Creed?
bold strategy, Con. Let's see if it pays
It works
off.
out for him. I
would say with adaptations, there are a lot of things that are adapted that we watch all the time, and we never think that they're adapted. Like, oh, this is adapted off of a book, or this is adapted off of a play, or this is adapted off of another movie that came out that no one knows about. Like, the only time that we ever get excited or energetic or passionate about an adaptation is when the original thing was pretty good. It's like, I think that, adaptations are, because art is also product and we have to sell it. I think that it's just not worthwhile. I in general, sometimes you can pull it off, but I think it's always good in spite of it. Like, for instance, Arcane, right? Arcane is adapting something that's too big for anyone to have any true grasp on. They just know how they feel when they're playing Arcane, or little things they like about certain characters. Easy stuff to adapt, right? But when you already have a narrative that's very woven together, it's already very like, hey, here it is. It's like adapting that, like, you're not adapting this thing, this feeling. You're adapting like this story that's already done. And I just think that's usually just not worth it, in my opinion. I know it's kind of negative, but it kind of derails like the whole conversational part of it. But
it's where you get to a point of where you want to make a movie version of something. That's fine, but then like you get something where it's like where I think might be the best adaptation of something, and even from people that are diehards of it, is The Boys. Garth Ennis made a comic book about superheroes, and Garth Ennis fucking hates superheroes. That's why he likes The Punisher so much. And even people that are diehards of it go, yeah, Garth went nuts after a while. The show is not going nuts where he went nuts. And it's almost unanimous that they're like, you course corrected where the comic went stupid. So, like, if there's some parts,
I never read that original comic, but a lot of people are saying that they like the show and that it actually isn't as edgy as the comic is.
Well, they toned down some stuff. It's still got some stuff there. Like, for example, when Starlight, have you watched the show?
Yeah, I love the show. It's great.
When Starlight, has to do the stuff with the Deep when she gets initiated.
Yeah.
The literal whole entire team, like 4 or 5 people, gangbanger in the central room.
There's
That's
only like
what
the end.
happens instead of that.
Mhm.
Like, you have the moment, you just don't have the we need to have everyone involved and make it a billion times worse version.
Right.
So they're making better, and like the stuff with Soldier Boy, totally not it. There's a bunch of other things where it's like Stormfront. That is the person who originally was a male and is the person who they used as a sample to make Homelander.
Mm.
There's stuff where it's like majorly changed, but it makes more sense. So like if you're gonna do stuff like that, yes. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, this is the thing. The Boys is one of the most transgressive things that you can find on TV, like in pop culture right now. In pop, I'll be more specific. You know, there's probably something more transgressive you can find. That's why I like it, because it's like you can't transgress anymore. But like The Boys actually does a really good job with being relatively even-handed about its transgression. So I don't know. I mean, if they wanted to go further with it, I probably wouldn't have had a problem, but they probably would have gotten canceled, you know. So then we wouldn't have the show anymore. So it's like, whatever.
After the cocaine dick explosion, I'm like, I think they can borderline get away with anything at this point.
and the fact that they're on a streaming platform means they don't have to conform to network standards.
That's true.
Advertisers.
Yeah.
One of my Jensen Ackles, I love him from Supernatural. That guy was literally on a TV show that I enjoyed for 15 years. I like it a little bit. Anyway, I like there's so weird that when he got onto The Boys, I've never felt a person wanting to say fuck in a TV show more in my life than I felt Jensen Ackles. For 15 years, he had to deal with shit and son of a bitch. Every time he said fuck in that show, he said it with 15 people's whole chests. I felt it.
15 people's whole chests.
I just, like, when he's looking at Homelander and he's like, we're not doing that, fuck you. I felt that through the screen. It's so cathartic. I could just feel it. He's like, I've been for so long. I've had a character that should have said fuck that never got to.
Yeah.
But yeah,
the show is good. I really I'm not complaining. I can't complain about The Boys. The Boys is great. It's so good that even when it's saying things that I technically don't agree with, it's so good. I just love it. Like that's what all entertainment should be. It's like it's so good. I love The Boys. It's great.
Yeah. Like another thing you mentioned for like things that you don't get excited about, I actually kind of get retroactively excited when I hear about something that was good in an adaptation and then found out it was an adaptation. Like, I think it was 10 years ago, someone let me know that Road to Perdition was based on a graphic novel.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, excuse me?
Yeah.
So I went back and read it. I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah. Well, that's what I think it's just like, I don't want to think an adaptation doesn't need the weight of and the expectation of the original thing. It just, and also social media, just the fact that we're always aware of it, of everything all the time, just makes it worse. We can't go and just enjoy something, you know? Like maybe it is 100% worse than the original thing, but how much did you enjoy it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It always depends on what you stumble upon first. Like,
yeah,
I'm pretty sure there's like an entire generation of kids who grew up only watching the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings trilogy, having never read the books.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Harry Potter. I mean, there's people who saw those movies and never bothered to read the books because they weren't really interested in it, but they like the movies. Yeah.
No one reads. I mean, let's be honest.
I remember back in the day when I was on the school bus, we were getting the Harry Potter books and we were scandalous because they said shit in one of them.
Yeah.
Oh boy. They were like, there's a swear in this one. That was us 4th grade on the school bus. Oh no. Because you had to read for AR goal, and Harry Potter books, because they were bigger, had the most points. So if you passed it, you'd only had to read one book. But yeah, I was trying to think of like what my honest to God worst adaptation of something in my entire life that I've seen was. And I just keep rolling around the same ones because it's like Dragon Ball, Death Note,
Last Airbender.
Oh my God. the fact that they can't even call it Avatar.
That movie was great. What are you talking about? Crap.
What? You're talking about Shyamalan's?
And that
Shyamalan.
Shyamalan.
Okay, so I mean, my hot take with that is that it was okay. It was above par. I didn't think I didn't hate it. You know, the things that people said about it that they didn't like. It's not like I didn't watch the original Last Airbender, but this felt like something different. It felt like, okay, it's based on that, and it's kind of like got like the vision of a different guy or whatever. It's like,
yeah. So this is my feeling about that movie. I agree. I think it's fine. I love the show. That show was one of the first TV shows I watched from premiere to finale. But like, I knew that the original intention was one movie for each season, and I went, well, yeah, you're not going to get the greatness of season 1 of Avatar: The Last Airbender in 1 2-hour movie.
yeah,
It's impossible to. So I kind of went in with low expectations and came out going like, that's fine.
yeah. The effects were okay. Some people like said the effects weren't good. I'm like, well, they're
I mean,
not
it
bad.
bothered the hell out of me that they did not pronounce the characters' names correctly, but
See, yeah.
like
Well,
Ong, I'm like, whose name is Aang?
The thing that, like, the only thing, like, I had to rewatch it again recently with a friend of mine because they're just like, I don't think it's that bad. I'm like, I really don't remember liking it, but I guess, I hate myself and I want to get kicked in the dick again today, so let's just watch it. And then we, like, when they start doing stomp the yard routines to do a simple bending routine, I kind of want to stab my own eyes out. Why do we need to do that?
Can I be honest?
All of that for like a pebble.
No.
Yes.
Okay. I've seen that scene. I've seen people make that joke.
It's not just
think
that one.
It's the one Bender is doing that. I think they're just doing that in kind of a like
Performative
like
way?
Maui Warriors, kind of get together and make it. They're not all doing that. I think it's just the one Earthbender who shoots
It's
the
in
thing.
almost every single scene I've seen. To what you would normally do, it's like if I wanted to shoot a 9mm, I unloaded the clip 13 times, cocked it back forth, and then shot it 5. That's how I wanted to think it wasn't as bad as I remembered. And then it ended up being as bad as I remembered. Because like Mike said, if that was to cause a hurricane, I'd have been fine. But it was like if I shot a squirt gun at you.
Honestly, I felt like, I don't know. I liked it because I'm not going to use the excuse that like, oh, it was only one of. I don't know if that was the case. I wasn't even thinking that at the time I watched it. At the time I watched it, I was like, okay, this is how much effort it takes to do this much of a thing. And guess what? It's magic still. They're still lifting stones in the air and throwing them. It's like, okay, well, I wonder what a really, really strong person could do. He could flick his finger and like a whole mountain could fly out of it. Who knows? Like, is it important that they're like, that this is impressive? Like that they're doing something, it's like, why isn't it impressive? Like that's a question I should be asking. It's because I have expectations. It's like, and the whole Ong Aang thing, it's like, this is kind of based in the real world. And also they got some flack about who they chose ethnically to be different kinds of, whatever. It's like, yeah, it's like, I think he was trying to craft something that's more true to life and less what it was like in the original series, which is fine. I mean, it's like, that's what's great about movies. It's like, you can use kind of elements of what in real life, and you can kind of put that into a fictional story. So that way it adds a little bit of texture, a little bit of weight to it, And when I watched it, it just made sense. I didn't think about it. I didn't think about that until years later. Someone brought that up. I'm like, oh, that was an issue. Like that was the last thing I was thinking about at the time. But I mean, it wasn't.
I can understand.
I'm not gonna die on that hill.
I know.
Like that's the kind of movie. And look, like I said, I love the show. So when someone says something like that, like they hate it, it's like their least favorite movie. I'm like, oh no, I can totally understand. Like Avatar is your favorite show. I can totally understand.
I prefer Korra.
Like I've actually never watched it. I never got around to it.
I've heard it's very good though.
The last 2 seasons are exceptional.
Yeah.
And
the fighting is amazing. It's better. All the great scenes that you remember from, they were they were kind of like they're a little bit more sparse in the original series. You get a lot more really great fight scenes, like the one with against Kuvira in the third or fourth season was so amazing, and the metal benders, like, oh my god, it's just so smooth.
That's where it got him with like metal and blood bending. I was like,
Oh, bloodbending!
I kept
That
hearing,
episode.
kept hearing about more and more things. I'm just like, that got nuts.
Dude, I still remember that episode from Avatar when Katara finds the soldier that killed her mother and the blood bending. You're like, oh god.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Just the one
That's
thing about
not
Avatar, I
fun.
remember from school where it was like people are watching Nickelodeon, and I had friends that there was just like, is that what an anime is? I'm like, well, I mean,
Sure.
yes.
Yeah. That's like, I don't care, man. It's like I love anime, but it's like, sure, whatever. It's good. Like, it's good. Watch it.
Yeah. Well, that's one of those things where it's like it's where
I remember when Dave Filoni worked for Nickelodeon. That's how old I am.
that's when I was a child of the 90s, when if we wanted to hear someone's opinion, we had to go to their house or
When
wait
you
for our
watched
parents to not
Clone
be on the
Wars, it was a
internet.
30-second show made by the guy who did Samurai Jack, and Dave Filoni was working for Nickelodeon. That was the early 2000s, kids.
Good times.
Tarkovsky, man.
That's why there was a meme I shared on Facebook where it was people complain about the length of episodes of Mandalorian. Meanwhile, when I was a kid, we waited a week just to see another 30 seconds of the Clone Wars every week. And it's true, that first season,
Dude, our dopamine receptors are fried, man. We can't even.
dude, that first season,
Yes.
when you actually look at how short those episodes were, it's insane that they got away with that. It's essentially just a commercial in between Toonami programs.
Oh, it was. And like I go back and like randomly, I don't remember where my nephews birthed it up from, but they were watching Kablam. I instantly felt a billion years old, and I'm sitting there watching this, and I'm like, oh no, like Morpheus and
Prometheus and Bob.
Like one of those clips showed up, and it happened. I was like, that was 30 seconds. I remember those being so long, and all this other stuff. I'm like,
because you were. It was everything, It was just a little bit. A little bit is all you needed. It's a little bit. It's a little bit of that,
Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
it was done, and I was so happy back in the day when we got just that.
Yeah, well, that was back in the day, and the reason why they were able to do that is because there wasn't anything else. Like YouTube, I don't think was the thing when Clone Wars came out in
YouTube
03.
was a thing when
we
I
need
was in
scarcity
high
back.
school.
Like it was just like,
Yeah.
As kids, it was just like, well, what else is there? It's not like I got 900 hours worth of Star Wars content on Disney Plus I could be watching right now.
And you were happy with it,
Oh, dude, hell yeah. That's still my favorite Clone Wars is the Tarkovsky stuff. And I love the
CG
one.
one.
Yeah, I love it. But the Tarkovsky stuff, when I do marathons of the movies, I watch volumes 1 and 2 of Tarkovsky's Clone Wars in between Attack Clones and Revenge and stuff.
So we were talking about scarcity. I had to look this up because someone shot the thing out, and like they were talking about YouTube statistics. Every day, supposedly, there's 720,000 hours of content loaded onto YouTube.
Doesn't surprise me.
That is just,
and none of it's worthwhile, including this podcast.
I mean, let's be honest here. Just
like why?
No, but you said that, but like you can YouTube search any random word, and there's like
you'll get like a million
multitude
results.
of results. It's
but like, and it's not even like it ranges from this to where I'm having fun doing it, and if 3 people watch it, I'm satisfied. To last year, where my snowblower took a crap, and there was 17 tutorials to where I could fix my snowblower at my house.
Companies are putting their content on here too. So you have, polished and, you have all that stuff on here too. Then you have
not polished and
they're holding the cam up while they're doing this. And you could just set the phone down. But it's like
and like you said, it's like the fact that there's videos that are creative and fun and people are making careers out of, and then there's a video of a mechanic who's just like, this is how you check your oil.
Yep.
Here's how you do it.
And there's like, I want to say it was James Williams from Funhouse quoted this. He's like, I don't care if you make videos about you talking about the expertise of the difference between cats' paw pads. Someone is going to find it and watch it. If you think that's the content you want to make it.
Actually, I'll make something that will get no views. Watch me. Challenge accepted.
I had it for a month. Wait, how long ago did Moon Knight come out?
I don't remember.
That was like June, so like 3 months.
Okay, 3 months. It took 3 months, and it finally hit the other day because I was just randomly looking.
Because you accidentally watched it.
No. I had one episode. The review of episode 3 of Moon Knight had no views. And then randomly, because I was like, I just found out where YouTube statistics were, and I randomly clicked. I'm like, oh, okay, what are my top watch, whatever. And then it got a view. I'm like, shut the hell up. Someone actually watched it? What? It's like, I had one. I had a no view video.
We got one.
Discoverability on YouTube is a lost cause. I mean, like, I enjoy putting my stuff out there for the sake of doing it. You know,
Yeah.
it just makes me feel good. It's like Twitter. You're just screaming into the void, but it's affirming. It's like I'm saying something to someone, and someone could very well be hearing it. And it's best not to know. It's best to just think, yeah, someone's hearing it, you know?
Yeah.
But, and I think YouTube is that way, too. I just enjoy it for the sake of it. But
Exactly. What it's like when I did Fresh Takes, Colton. Whoa, sorry, Mike. You look so close to a guy who's done editing for me. Colton Hunt is a great friend of mine, and you two look shockingly identical. But I was like, I screamed into the void for so long. Like, we were doing movie reviews, and it was during COVID. Everything shut down. I'm like, I still want to do like video content because like I have no life, and I love talking with Mike. And then I was like, I got it. I have an excuse where I could do a video series talking about Gurren. Hey, Mike, what would you think about if we did reviews about old animes and did fresh takes on them? So then we did that, and it was one of the best things I ever did. And I finally got like the parallel works, the movies, everything. And then like one comment made my day. I didn't need it, but it was okay. Just like, I liked it. Thanks. Cool. But I was like, oh, I was happy that I got to do that. And I was like, you want to know what? That thought's out of my brain. I'm happy I got to do it once.
yeah.
Like stuff like that. And like just checking it off the bucket list. I wanted to start a podcast.
But you know,
I got to.
That's fine because it's like,
Yeah.
the fact that we have access to everyone on the internet, that you could put something out there and actually get someone to say that's insane. Like, imagine living in a small town and you make this thing and you're like, well, where do I show it? Like, who's gonna, like, you don't have any, you know, it's like, but now we have the internet, so you can just put it on there and people will, even if they don't like it, even if they don't watch it all the way, they'll scroll about it, they'll see the little, you know, animated thumbnail. It's like so many people are seeing this that you should feel blessed, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice that YouTube must own half of a continent for all the servers that they have for all the just BS that gets uploaded daily. It blows my mind that there's just buildings of cat videos and all this other things that are just uploaded daily. But yeah, the other one, if you like have anything to say on it, Mike wanted to talk about. I think it was Mike or Matt wanted to talk about extended versions of movies.
That was me and Mike.
That was you, yeah.
Wanted to talk about that. Yeah.
So go ahead.
Mike, you saw more extended cuts recently. You talk about it.
Yeah, so this month my theater, what they do every Sunday and Wednesday is they have a series called Flashback Cinema, and this month they were screening all of the extended editions of The Lord of the Rings. So I because I have never seen like the extended versions in theaters before, I had to jump at the opportunity to see them. This past week was Return of the King, and then 2 weeks before that were Fellowship and Two Towers. And yeah, it was overall just a great experience. I think one thing that I love about the extended editions of The Lord of the Rings is I don't know if they necessarily make the movies themselves better. It's just you get to spend more time in a world that's just extremely well crafted.
and this is coming from a guy who is a fan of Return of the King, how many more endings were added in the extended edition?
As far as I know, it's the same amount of endings. It's just
They're just longer.
I couldn't tell you.
One does not simply not extend the ending of Return of the King.
It's actually been a while since I've seen the theatrical edition, but
man.
as far as I know, the ending is pretty much the same, but a lot of the stuff in the middle is what's expanded upon.
Okay, I'll be honest, and I'll jump off of Mike's thing. So a couple years ago, I rewatched Lord of the Rings movies for the first time in many, many years, because of friends of mine like Kristen Smith who love those movies are like, Matt, you should really rewatch them. And I watched the theatricals because that's what I had access to, and I really liked them. And I don't know what it is with Lord of the Rings fans, but they're not satisfied until you watch everything. Like, it can't just be like, oh yeah, I watched the theatrical cuts. I really like them. They were good movies. No, you must watch the extended. He's talking about not watching stuff out of spite. I hope I die never having seen an extended cut of Lord of the Rings.
Do they get upset when you don't watch Rings of Power?
I don't think
I was
talked
like,
to-
I think
I don't think I've talked to anyone. I
I
have said on Twitter that the trailer didn't do anything for me. I'm not a huge Lord of the Rings fan. Like I said, I like the movies enough. I like the Ralph Bakshi movie, but I've only ever read The Hobbit in my life, and that was years ago. Rings of Power, even when I see all the praise from people I follow on Twitter,
I
which
just don't care.
some of that is, I think, some of the people that I follow feel very much like, I don't really know if you really love this or if it's just the mere fact it exists is why you're saying you love it. Like, I'm not trying to be mean. I don't know your feelings on it, but that's, I feel like, a lot of people I know with Andor, to where it's like, part of it is more you just love that a show like this exists in Star Wars.
Yeah.
And so, but then again, me and Mike love She-Hulk and keep talking about that every week.
do
And I'm
I.
sure some of my friends think the same about me, that it's like, Matt, you really love this, or do you just love the fact that there's a show like this in the MCU? The answer is both.
Yeah.
And I'll be kind of honest.
Kind of honest, be fully honest.
Yeah.
Okay,
We
fine, I'll be
repeat it. Say it with your chest.
So you're kind of lying. It's like, okay,
Time
yeah, I'm
out
not
here.
interested.
The one person to say kind of honest is you, Mike? Come on.
No, but seriously, when it comes to Rings of Power, I am both enjoying the show for what it is, but also kind of glad that it does exist alongside a Game of Thrones prequel.
Yeah.
I just think it's cool that both happen to exist at the same time.
Now, isn't there some stupid rule set for the only things they can do in Rings of Power? That's like the opposite of what the Franco Wizard of Oz movie was. Someone tried explaining it to me the other day. Like, they can only use certain things.
Yeah. So as far as I know, Amazon only has the rights to the material that was adapted in, like, they only have the rights to material that has already been adapted, and the show takes place in, I don't know how long ago you've seen Fellowship. Like, basically the story is everything that happens in, like, the prologue, which is set like a couple thousand years before.
So I've seen Rings of Power already. Nice.
Yeah, essentially you have.
I liked it. Great series. Great series. Very short.
It took
It's
5
expecting a
minutes.
longer
It was
run.
fantastic. But man, that kind of makes me think that it's really weird that Shadow of Mordor is basically that. But anyway,
I mean, Rogue One was basically that. It was like, remember that opening crawl? What if we just told that in 2 hours?
that's my favorite Star Wars movie.
I love
For
it.
being honest.
I
Wait,
love it.
wait. Rogue One is your favorite Star Wars movie of all Star Wars movies?
Is that, well, I take that back. Revenge of this, though, my gosh, The Empire
Revenge of the
Strikes
Jedi?
Back and then Rogue One.
Okay, there you go.
Now I can see. I know people who
Episode
love
3
Rogue One.
is up there, right?
Well, it's the problem I have I'm gonna get blasted for this so fucking hard.
Here we go.
Every Star Wars movie to me that has Jedi in it eventually becomes, I'm evil. What if you weren't though? Okay, I guess you could keep doing that. It'd be better if you didn't. Thanks. And then he wasn't evil anymore. That's what it boils down to a lot of times, and I'm just like, can we not have that just be he went to the dark side? But what if we make him not do that anymore? And then there's a slight variation in there in between.
Yeah. Well, I do like the idea of the pull of the dark side versus like the like the whole the basic idea of like good and evil. Like I like that because we're so deep into postmodernism that like ideas of good and evil don't even exist anymore. So it's like to have something that kind of like examines those ideas are kind of cool. I think it's very
Well, that all goes back to Empire and that incredible scene when Luke straight up asks Yoda, "Is the dark side stronger?" He says, "No, it's just easier, quicker, more seductive. That's it. It's not." And what I like about that moment is Yoda doesn't say the light side is stronger. He's literally saying, "No, it's equally. The problem is that the dark side tries to tell you that it's stronger, even though it's not." And you see that playing out in Revenge of the Sith, to where whatever Sidious was promising Anakin, which was bullshit, was stuff he could have done with just training on the light side. It's just the dark side tells you that there's more power, even though there's not. It's a hollow promise. It's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, it's great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's great.
But to go back to extended and non-extended editions, if we're talking about least favorites, and I don't know if I'll get any flack for this, I do not like the extended version of Aliens. I prefer the theatrical cut of Aliens.
I'm going to be really honest. I might get blasted for this. I didn't know there was an extended version of Aliens.
Well, it's a James Cameron movie that's not called True
naturally.
Lies, so of course there is.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so there's extended moments. They show you Newt and her family and the planet in operation. Newt's family actually finds the eggs on the planet. There's
Do they still
you
mostly
find
come
out
out
you
at
find
night?
out
Mostly?
Ripley finds out her daughter passed away near the beginning of the movie.
Okay.
There's extended stuff. There's a whole sequence when they set up these turrets that take out a bunch of the xenomorphs.
Okay.
There's a bunch of stuff like that. It's ultimately, for me, it just drags the movie down. Like I own the extended version on DVD. It's the only version of Aliens I own. When the Newt, like her family on the planet starts, I skip the chapter because I'm like, when you watch the theatrical, it's so much better that you go down to the planet not knowing what's there, not knowing if the aliens actually are there. Like you go and Newt, the fact that you first meet her as this like just survivor, and also, and I've heard some fans complain about, one of the best parts of Aliens is that sort of surrogate mother that Ripley becomes for Newt. But when you watch the extended, it's this weird thing of, is she only doing this because she feels this guilt that she missed out on her daughter and her daughter died? And so now this is like, oh, my second chance to be a mother, not just Ripley's just an incredible human being that can just do this for this person that she hasn't known for very long. I love Aliens, but it's just, I think that was, I don't know, I think that was one of those times when it was just like, I think it was best to have just left it alone. Just have left that movie alone. Which again, look, I get James only did it because everybody minus David Fincher was coming back to do an extended cut of the Aliens movies for DVDs, so I understand why he did it, but I'm just like, if you've never seen Aliens before, just find the theatrical cut and stay with it. That's my suggestion.
Aliens is one of the best done sequels, in my opinion. It's the perfect of horror movie to action movie and done well.
Dude, one of my favorite movie scenes is it's a bug hunt, man. And it's the moment, it's when Hicks, they're looking and they're like, where are they? And he takes the light and slowly goes up into the ceiling and just sees the horde of them coming and just falls backwards. because they've trapped themselves. They did the worst thing they possibly could have.
They're coming out of the
Great movie.
goddamn walls, man.
Bunker, man.
They emotionally come out at night, mostly.
They mostly come in at night. Mostly. I'm not going to make it into the next one, am I?
I'm going to die off. Me and a bunch of characters are going to die off screen.
Yeah. Do you hear? Fun story. Did you hear? Have you heard the Michael Biehn story about Aliens? Alien 3.
No.
So in Alien 3, at the beginning of the movie, when they're sort of discussing who died, and they show unknown, female girl, and then they show Corporal Dwayne Hicks. There's a picture of Michael Biehn. To get to use that picture, they had to pay Michael Biehn the same salary they paid him to act in Aliens, which is why in the assembly cut, they don't show that picture because they didn't want to have to pay Michael Biehn again.
Wow.
That is phenomenal.
Well, that's the same story of James Caan in Godfather Part 2. He said he would do that one scene in Godfather Part 2 if they gave him the same salary for playing Sonny in Godfather.
Oh my god. There was something where talking about like how Alec Guinness did the on the back end, the royalties. And
Oh yeah, his deal on Star Wars.
Yeah, there was another
most
one.
Brilliant deal ever made.
Yeah, there was another one, speaking with Lord of the Rings, where I can't remember who was interviewing him. I want to say it was Howard Stern was interviewing Russell Crowe, who turned down Lord of the Rings, and then they displayed him the math of what he would have made over time, and it was about $100 million. Yeah. And Russell Crowe is just dying inside as all this goes on.
Yeah, he's wiping his eyes off with all that money he has. He's like, oh god,
yeah,
it hurts.
Yeah,
but Alec Guinness, and what's so funny about that is like nowadays, like Robert Downey Jr. when he was doing the MCU, he was getting back end stuff off of like all the Iron Man movies and the Avengers stuff. But like, you gotta think, no one knew Star Wars was gonna be anything. Alec Guinness had this vague idea. He's like, it might be something. That man just made so much money.
Yeah.
So much.
Well, no
money.
one knows anything is going to be anything. Or to be even more specific, no one knew anything was going to be anything. Nowadays we have AI, so that's
figure it out for you.
No, true. And of course there's famous times when everyone thinks that, X movie is going to be hit and it fails. But like when you think about Star Wars and the fact that like during the entire production, it was like, George, what are you doing? This is going to be a shit movie. That Alec Guinness was like, just gonna take a little.
And lo and behold, it was.
Yeah, he's like, you're gonna be able to pay me, so I'm going to take it off the back end. And
that's my favorite story is the fact that Alec Guinness literally just did that movie because I think he had like a deal with 20th Century Fox or something like that. Like he didn't go to the project because he's like, this is a project I'm really passionate about. It was literally like he was kind of being forced to do it, but because he's fucking Alec Guinness, he was like, I'm going to give this such a good performance. I'm going to be the only actor in this series to get nominated for a role. And a nomination well deserved, I say. Even if Malcolm doesn't think it's good. Oh, God, I don't need to start on Malcolm. He's not here to defend himself. I give him enough flack about that.
Is Malcolm in the room with us right now?
No,
he
Malcolm
comes off screen.
He works with me on Take Three Productions, which is a YouTube channel I work on.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, so, as a matter of fact, he is in the room with us right now.
As is like, come on now.
He's as in the room with us as I am with all you guys right now.
Is there any other? I'm trying to think of other extended editions. Like I've seen ones where they add like one or two scenes.
Well, like director's cuts. Daredevil. I love the director's cut. Daredevil. That was talk about rest in peace Coolio. They added all of his scenes back in, and it's a better paced movie. They take the post credit scene and actually put it into the actual ending of the movie with Bullseye. Mm-hmm. And I've always said this. Now I love that movie. I know a lot of people here, but I'm like, if that version came out in theaters, I feel like it probably got a sequel.
How much longer is the extended or the director's cut compared to the original?
Great question.
Keep talking.
I don't know offhand. I don't know. It's definitely a little bit longer, I think.
Okay, the director's cut is 2 hours, 13 minutes. and the original is 1 hour 43 minutes.
Yeah, I see no reason why the director's cut couldn't just be the cut.
Because
Man,
stupidity.
what man? And that Elektra movie also.
Now that is nothing compared to the extended cut of Independence Day, which is a whole 9 minutes of restored footage. That is
Yeah, it's
nothing.
funny.
Because
However-
back again, there's an extended cut of Independence Day.
Yeah,
Yep.
with 9 minutes of restored footage.
What is it?
It's so there's a scene where David makes his lunch at work and has another talk with the uncle from Mrs. Doubtfire, Harvey Firestein. There's a moment when Vivica Fox is driving and there's like a really religious guy preaching about the end of the world before they go to El Toro. There's a scene when he's trying to when Jeff Goldblum's trying to get in contact with his ex-wife, and he's trying to find her phone number. And so he pulls up his computer, and his dad suggests looking up her name, but with his last name, and that's how he found her, and that's how he's able to call her in the White House. Yeah, it's literally small stuff, but look, I love Independence Day. I watch every 4th of July. It's so bad because that's the version I watch, that when I watch it on TV, I notice every single one of those moments that are missing. Even though it's so, we talked about this in hour 1 of the video. It's the edits. It's just like, I notice when it's missing. Like, I notice. That's honestly why it's hard for me when I see extended cuts sometimes. Like, Terminator 2 is one of those. When I try to watch the theatrical, I'm looking forward to stuff that isn't there. Like, I'm looking forward to the Kyle Reese scene, and it's not there. I'm looking forward to the small moment when the T-1000 grabs the rail and then he copies it and has to shake it off. It's not there. Like, it's so funny how those cuts can, just be like ingrained in your head, and then when you try to watch the one in theaters, and that's part of the reason why I don't want to watch the extended cuts of Lord of the Rings, because I like those movies. They're long as is. I don't want to get attached to scenes and moments and be like, well, every time I want to watch these movies, I have to set aside, 5 hours of my life to watch Fellowship of the Ring. No, thank you.
This is why I appreciate what my theater did. Like, I know some theaters will
What,
screen,
intermission?
No, they don't do intermissions, but some theaters will play the whole trilogy.
No, and I'm not talking about marathoning. I'm talking about just watching one movie in one night. The extended cut is like how long is the extended cut of Return of the King? Is it like 4 hours?
It's 4.5 hours.
Like, I'm like, every time I want to watch Return of the King, I don't have to be like, well, gotta give up 4 hours. We were talking about this, the Snyder cut.
Yeah,
That's kind of why I've only seen it the once, and I go back and watch the theatrical, because I'm like, I don't want to have it be every time I want to watch Justice League. Got to be like, well, got to carve out 4 hours. And I know everybody's like, well, you could watch it like a TV show. I'm sorry. I watch movies like movies and TV shows like TV shows. Thank you very much.
Same.
Yeah,
It genuinely bothers me when say my family wants to watch a movie, but they don't have the energy to finish. I'm like,
what's wrong with you?
Why?
Yeah,
like,
I didn't start this.
And I'll be honest, I'm totally, because I've had that too, moments where I'm like, I'm falling asleep and I'm like, okay, I'll finish this in the morning. But I'm talking about stuff like, I remember when Irishman came out, there were people who figured out a way to watch it like a show. Like, you watch it until this moment, and then you stop, and then you watch this chunk of the movie, and then you stop. And they treated and I'm like, no. Like, I'm fine stopping a movie because it's late or I'm falling asleep or something, but like, I'm not gonna watch them. I'm not gonna be like, well, I watched the first hour of Return of the King tonight, and then the next hour tomorrow. No.
yeah,
I'm not doing that.
I have so many problems with that. It's like, there's a reason why I like movies, and one of them is because of the overarching story, like the compact storyline. It's like it's meant to be experienced in one sitting. That's the reason why it's made that way.
Yeah.
Also, I think, well, the Snyder Cut's a very interesting case because
they chopped it up into chapters.
Yeah.
They did. I typically don't like movies that are chopped up into chapters or they have
Where
like
they treat it like a play.
I don't like that typically. I mean, I don't mind it. Sometimes less it's less of an issue than others, but like the problem is like it's telling you when the story's changing. And I think a movie should be so self-evident when there's a change in the story. Like you shouldn't have to be told through like text, like, oh, we're gonna go do another chapter now. It's like it should just feel like we're in a new chapter of the movie.
I will say some classic movies that have intermissions, that's just from an old time to where like, no, that existed because they need to give production this time to literally switch out the film reels.
Right.
You know, like Ben-Hur, Lawrence of Arabia, stuff like that. Like they have intermissions because it's literally like that's how movies were made back then. You needed that time to switch out reels. You know, now it's all digital, but yeah, I agree. Stuff like that to where it's like chapter 4 stuff. Yeah, I don't like that either. Like I just saw Wrath of Khan in the theater a couple weeks ago, and that's like an incredible movie. I don't want to watch that in a couple of snippets. Like, no, like I want to watch that as the movie that was made as a movie. And it's partially why I think extended cuts a lot of times don't work. I think there are some times where there are movies that studios had their hands in way too much of and took away from the director. Alien 3 being an example of that, to where that movie was really taken out of David Fincher's hands and everything. But then there are times when it's like, bro, after Terminator, no one was touching aliens. James Cameron, you're just doing this just to do it. Like, you don't need to do an extended cut of this movie. Yeah,
I feel like in my past, there's not been a lot of movies that I had been aware that there were extended cuts, and even now, knowing that some of the movies that I watch have had extended cuts, or there are movies that I haven't seen at all that have a theatrical and extended cut. If I do choose to watch it at all, I'll just watch the extended cut. Like I don't believe in like a non-definitive version of a movie. Like even if the definitive version or the extended cut or the director's cut or whatever is better, or sorry, even if it's worse, it's still more definitive. Because it's like, yeah, this is what you put out. This is the extended version. This is the ultimate version that you put out. It's like, I'm not going to watch the other one just on the virtue that it's not the final thing.
I think, and me and my friend Michael have had conversations. We love the movie Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Now, he saw that movie in theaters. I didn't. I grew up and I saw that movie on TV. But we both grew up loving the theatrical cut. But the unfortunate thing is, they've decided that the only cut that you can find anywhere is the extended cut, which is not terrible. But I'm just like, I wish I could find the cut of the movie that I fell in love with, you know? And that's why I understand Star Wars fans being like, I just wish I could have the versions of Star Wars that I saw and fell in love with, you know, and the effects that yes, they're outdated. Yes, they're this, but like, that's what made me love this thing, you know? And I, you know, I just wish movie studios were a little bit kinder with just like giving you an option and not just being like, once the extended cut comes out, that's it. You're only going to be allowed the extended cut.
Nowadays with streaming, there's no reason not to do it. Of course, my problem with streaming is how ephemeral things are and how they could change it. You never know. But I mean, technically, in a perfect world, you could have a version where you click on a movie and it gives you every cut of the movie. And you can just choose which one you want.
Say what you will about the movie. You can love it, you can hate it. But man, Blade Runner, they let fans of that movie have every cut of that movie feasibly possible and said, go ahead and choose which one's your favorite and watch it.
Yeah.
Speaking of multiple versions,
or Jurassic World Dominion just did that. The Blu-ray, you get the theatrical and the extended cut of the movie.
Guess how many versions of Avatar there are now after the re-release?
I don't know, Mike. Why don't you tell us?
There's 4.
Oh God.
Oh, are there? And
there's
Mike
there's the theatrical.
Washes each one with lotion.
There's the theatrical cut. There's the extended edition.
There's the no sex edition.
There's the no sex edition, yes. And the re-release has like a new ending, with Giovanni Ribisi saying like, "This isn't over," and then of course, there's a sneak peek for The
He
Way of the
says,
Water.
Giovanni
"It's
Ribisi
over."
goes, "You will
And
be
it-
attainable."
He's like, "This isn't over. It might not be over 3 more times. That depends on how successful the next time it's not over." And
It's not, and it won't be over in another 15 years.
Yeah. So we should talk about Avatar. So it's funny how I've actually seen a lot of kickback against Avatar that I find it to be quite interesting that this is the movie that people are choosing to be. So for instance, like the whole CGI water situation, right? Like I feel in my circle, my Twitter circle at least, also some of the podcasts that I listen to and other ways that I interact with people's ideas, there's like I'm getting like this sort of sense of like there's a kickback to the original Avatar where it's like, this is great because it's cutting edge, right? And it doesn't need to be anything more than just the most cutting edge thing we've ever seen. And now people are going back and they're like, it's like, I hate the fact that, this is cutting edge, or it's like, it's a gimmick, it's dumb. It's like, they're trying to like trick us into watching something that's not good or something like that, as though we were tricked the first time. Like, no, like I loved the movie the first time. I wasn't tricked. It was great. I saw the little, floating butterfly leaves in 3D, and it was really cool. And the effects were great. The sound was great. And I had a blast,
Yeah,
but I feel like there's been some kickback.
You bring up an interesting thing to where it is like, it's weird because nobody knows, but it's like, and I'm going back to the early golden age of cinema. Were movies ever designed to be rewatched multiple times? Or were they designed for one-time viewings? Like,
honestly, that's a really good question.
Multiple times, because they would actually have the same movie playing in theaters for a lot longer because there were less movies.
Yeah. Well, movies, the whole thing is movies used to be like plays. They used to be on tour. It used to play for a week in New York.
Oh,
and
that
then
far
go
back.
to Chicago.
Okay.
And this notion of like owning movies and being able to rewatch it again, like that just didn't exist. And even when you look at like movies that got re-released, even then that was like, it was more a novelty that like, oh, we can go and see Smokey and the Bandit again. Let's go do that. But this notion of like, I can just watch Empire Strikes Back 15 times in one day if I want to. Like, when George Lucas and Irvin Kershner designed that movie, were they making it with the sense of like, well, people are going to watch this 15 times in one day? No. And even today, with like, it's an interesting point that I didn't think about until right now, because you think about like the great twists in movies. It's like there are movies that, like, one of my favorites is The Sixth Sense. And what's great about that movie is you go back and you're like, Shyamalan kind of told you the twist. It's just you didn't pick it up until you knew what it was. And so you're like, well, that was probably really designed to be watched. But did James Cameron make Avatar to be watched over and over again? I don't know. Clearly didn't care that people do, because he made a ton of money.
This is the thing. I'm in principle, I agree that movies like Avatar are inherently very empty, very corporate, very just high sugar, high fat, just it's definitely on the bottom of the food triangle food pyramid when it comes to movies, in my opinion. I'm pretentious and I've come to grips with that, but and I'm not saying this new movie is going to be tour de force cinema or whatever. I might watch it, I might not. I really actually don't care that much, but I just find it so interesting that a lot of people, the things that people are saying, like especially within my circle, are things that I've always been saying about things like Marvel movies and Disney Pixar movies and other just kind of stuff that, big blockbuster stuff that comes out. It's like, this is the same thing, except it actually does it really well. It's like, this is actually the peak of technological spectacle. It's like, why are you rejecting this and not all the other end games and the other this or that,
My thing when it comes to the Avatar discourse is it just kind of bothers me that like this is the movie that gets like all of the shit thrown at it for being, copying other movies. Like
Yeah.
when
because it's successful. It's because it. Look, we were all just talking about this. Jesus, we've been going so long, I can't even tell what we talked about on air and off air. But we were talking about how like
during the Hocus Pocus review when we were
one
out
of the nice things about being a small time YouTuber is the fact that like I can make a video where I might have an opinion that might rub people the wrong way, but I know I'm not gonna get 500 comments telling me that I'm dumb and wrong. Whereas with Avatar, it's like if that movie wasn't the highest grossing movie of all time, I don't think it would get the flack it gets. I think once you go into that echelon, then it's like, well, if you're the highest grossing movie of all time, you got to be a good movie, clearly. And, and I think it's just like the more popular and more successful something is, the more detractors to it.
Yeah.
And some of those detractors and some of those people scrutinize the movie actually have genuine criticisms of the movie and don't like it. And other ones are just like, if it's popular, therefore it must be bad. Look at Top Gun Maverick. Top Gun Maverick gets tons of those people who it's like, well, that movie's very popular, so it must be bad, and I must watch it and find what's bad about it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, my perception of these movies, I've really come to understand is based solely upon whatever Twitter's algorithm chooses to use as a mirror to reflect back at me. It's like, because it's like you guys' perception may be based upon who you interact with on whatever platform or in real life or whatever. So I'm just kind of like bouncing this off you guys to see
people in real life.
I mean,
sometimes,
occasionally.
No, but I don't want to say that, in front of all the people here on YouTube,
You guys leave your houses? We don't just live here?
I gotta pay my bills sometimes, unfortunately.
Well, I work from home, so I found a way.
Brag about it.
Mike, I didn't mean to cut you off before. Please finish the point you were making. I'm sorry.
Mike.
Mike.
Which Mike? Yeah, K.
I
don't know.
This is Matt.
Yeah.
This is okay.
I never know where these sit on the other end.
Yeah.
Same.
Kay was in the middle of a point, and then I interrupted him.
All I was gonna say is just building off what you said earlier, Matt. The more Avatar was making at the box office, the more scrutiny that like everyone felt they had to say about it.
Let me interject another possible thought as well. I think that with these big blockbuster movies, I feel like everyone's playing fantasy studios or fantasy franchise with all these movies. You hear a lot of like terms, and maybe you don't, but maybe it's just me. Like, oh, the cultural impact of this movie, or like people are always so concerned about what
about other people's opinions instead of like just
what
your
what they
own
got
and engaging with the material.
Right. So it's like, okay, Avatar is obviously a massive movie that we didn't know if it was going to get a sequel, right? It did get a sequel, and now people are like, oh snap, and it's a serious contender. Like this is like got a lot of money, and a lot of people are very likely going to see this. I mean, even if it does bad, it's still going to make a lot of money. It's probably there's probably no way it's going to lose money. So it's like there's no way to judge this movie based purely upon. It's like all the MCU stuff. It's like they don't ever fail. So you have to like change the terms for what it means to not succeed, right? So it's like you have another one of these movies in this franchise or in this not franchise.
That's like Solo. It's like Solo failed in regards to a Star Wars movie, but when it comes to an actual movie, did pretty good at the box office. Not insane, but pretty good.
Right. But these are all the movies that we talk about the most. It's like movies that are like doing well, but we have to like everyone wants to put their 2 cents in on it, make it a battle, a war, because it's a big thing. It feels like, I don't know. Do you guys get that sense? It's like, well, if Avatar wasn't operating in the same arena as DC, Marvel, and other big franchises, now it's like, oh, another thing that we might have to have on our minds, you know, like that's gonna take up our attention.
I don't know. I was one of those people that where it was like I was one of the ones where it was like, in my honest opinion, it made a good amount of money than what it was because of the word of mouth of 3D effects at the time. Because that was the peak of when 3D was a thing that people cared about.
I think
the tickets were more expensive. And in my opinion, if you try to deny it didn't make as much as it did because of the 3D,
well,
that you're in a serious case of denial of which I cannot quantify.
And I've talked about this a lot. It came out in the winter of 2009, which on the East Coast, there's not really a lot to do during the winter. And also, its competition was Alvin and the Chipmunks, the Squeakquel, and did you hear about the Morgans? So you combine that with cutting edge 3D, which people have to remember, there was a period to where it went from red and blue 3D to real D3D, and like that was huge. Like it went from 3D that was let's throw stuff at the screen to let's immerse people in the movie. And yeah, I remember being in 7th grade and loving it. And me and Mike talked about this a couple of weeks ago, or the other week or something, whenever you saw the re-release, and it's like I can distinctly remember loving Avatar in the theater. I only saw it the one time, and then when it came out on DVD, watching it and just because I didn't have 3D TV, so I was just watching the movie and just being like, because the immersion wasn't there, I just had the story, and that's why I was like, this isn't really good, is it? You know, see, it's a movie that I feel like was designed for the theaters, not for home viewing.
Yeah.
Which is why I think Avatar 2 is going to be successful, because James Cameron is a master filmmaker and he's going to make another great movie that's going to push the boundaries of 3D and everything. But am I excited for it? I gotta be honest, no. That trailer, which, by the way, this is just my own personal thing. When CinemaCon happened, which, by the way, I think CinemaCon is one of the dumbest things in the world, but that's neither here nor there. Everyone was like, oh my God, Avatar, Way of the Water, that trailer is incredible. It's all this stuff. I remember watching it just being like, that was the trailer everybody lost their minds over? Really? That?
Yeah. The one thing I cannot wait for is that when that movie does not make as much as the first one does, and a sea of morons go see, it wasn't that good. It didn't make as much as the first one did.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, this is the thing, right? This is the thing. I think that, despite how the movie actually is, the second, as more of them come out, and because they allowed him to film all these movies back to back, right? So it's done. They committed. It's over. Right, they're all out. They have to release the movies now.
At the very least, he shot 2 and 3 back to back. I don't know about 4 yet.
I think he's like working on it. I don't think he's shot it yet. I don't think he's got to.
They might be having it getting ready, but yeah, they did a good chunk of it.
They've already invested like so much money into this entire franchise that they have to make it back. So they're gonna go full on. It's also Disney now has financial responsibility of this, so they're not allowed to lose, right? So they're gonna have really great narrative control and whatnot. So I think that like once the movies actually come out, regardless of what people feel about them, they'll start to legitimize themselves. Like, oh, it's a franchise now. Like if if Endgame 2 comes out or whatever, it's like, oh, now we get to see the next chapter. Like now we're gonna get things explained to us, and we're gonna see things that we didn't see before, you know. And that's gonna happen with Avatar too. It's gonna be like, oh, like. This is
it's something you talk about that because Mark Ellis on his podcast on Rotten Tomatoes, he had Topher Grace on, and they were talking about the Back to the Future trilogy. And fun thing is, Topher Grace brought up this great thing to where he's like, you know, most sequels, when you really think about it, we don't want to see the movie. We want to see the trailer for a sequel. Like we want to see a glimpse into that world that we loved in the first movie and the idea of what it can be. But a lot of times sequels fail because they just fail to leverage the original. And it's more just the idea of a sequel we're excited for and going back in the world. And then once we do and it's not as good, we're like, You know, because you look at how many sequels aren't good. And it's because sometimes some movies, Matrix, were only meant to be one movie and nothing else. That's it.
That's why when a sequel is good or better than the original, it's like it's a miracle.
Well,
Yeah.
and the problem, me and again, I bring up Malcolm, who is a real person. We were talking about Rocky, and we were talking about like Rocky 2 and like how crazy it was that Stallone was doing a sequel to the first one, and it's like, and that movie's great, and it's we do this thing with like Rocky 2 and Godfather 2 and Empire, and we take these sequels that are just as good or maybe surpass the original, we hold them on this pedestal, and then we forget that like in the history of cinema, there are tons of sequels that maybe aren't horrible movies, but people just forget. Like French Connection has a sequel. French Connection is a celebrated detective movie. How many people remember that there's a sequel? Not that many. Smokey and the Bandit has 3 sequels. How many people remember that there are not many? But we get this idea because most sequels are not Empire Strikes Back. Most are French Connection 2.
And
Which
also,
are, yeah,
to be honest, most people are, especially nowadays, are a lot happier to talk about how bad something is versus how good something is.
that is true.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes.
That one thing I
100%.
hate about the world, period, nowadays.
Also,
Good news
because
does not last long.
it's incentivized. Like if I say something positive on Twitter, no one will like it. But if I eloquently explain why I hate something, people will be like, yeah, like truth, like preach.
Oh,
It's like,
yeah.
just
Absolutely.
bringing up She-Hulk again. If I make a tweet talking about like this is a really funny show, I'm really enjoying this, I'll get maybe 5 likes. If I say this show is crap, it's Disney forcing woke stuff on us, 100 likes.
Finally, someone understands.
Yeah, this.
yeah. Oh my God, this. Oh no.
Right here.
Or my least favorite, people who write out the word retweet when they.
Oh no.
I've never had that, but
I've never
that
seen
physically
that.
made
There
me
is
want to
a
throw up.
level of hell that is waiting for you.
I can't with those people. Nope.
Oh,
I know
man.
people who do it, and I'm just like,
That
it's
is
gonna
the
be
level
sad
of
watching you
people-
from up there when you're down there.
That is the level of people, and, or like people that post their own stuff and then like it themselves.
Ugh.
That
Yeah.
Whenever I accidentally like it, I had a frantic, tizzy. Like,
Yeah.
no. Like, I hope
I
it's
didn't
not.
mean it. I'm not self-centered. I swear to God.
And look, I understand sometimes people do that just because, let's be honest, unfortunately, that stuff does affect your algorithm. So the more likes you can get, like, I totally get it. But if you're doing it just because you're like, that was a great video, I should like it. It's
That
like,
was really good, me.
no.
Good job.
If you're
How
doing it to
would you
play,
ever know?
if
It's
you're
like,
doing it to play the system, all right, totally understand because the YouTube algorithm.
yeah, we are not the
Shit.
same. It's like you do it because you think you're great. I do it to play the algorithm. We are not.
Well,
the
that's
same.
like I said on the Hocus Pocus review. I literally said, give me a bunch of shit reviews and downvotes. Like, great, helps me in the algorithm, guys. I don't care.
Yeah. All it's about is interactions. It's about
Yeah, it's just engagement. YouTube doesn't care
Engagement.
if it's positive or negative. If you have a lot of engagement, your video. Which
except
is
they
pretty
do
dumb,
because they
but-
remove the dislike
Dislike
button.
button.
Well, they okay.
They,
so
they,
they,
they didn't remove the button. They just
Oh,
They
removed how
or
many
removed the
people.
counter.
Yeah. That's the
Okay.
thing. You just can't see the counter.
Yeah, that's true. And there is a Chrome extension that they're going to get rid of as well. They're going to ban to allow you to
Which-
see.
I know we're changing discussions here for 5 minutes, but personally, as someone who, and I talked about how long it takes me to make my videos, I've had the times when I've taken 3 hours to edit a video and it's up and all it has are 2 dislikes on it. And it's just like, that's annoying. as
Within
shit to
2
me.
minutes of a half-hour long video.
Well, or
That's
in
my
the
favorite
case,
part.
or what happened to me was there was this group that it's a whole story I can get in off air, but essentially I defended my friend in this Facebook group and these people got really pissed off at me. So when I made this video, they went after me in both the comments and disliked the video immensely. So in that cases, I'm like, great. I'm glad that people can't see that this has 5 dislikes, not because these people actually disliked it, but just because they had a problem with me.
Yeah.
Because and it's funny. I remember when YouTube brought that out and I saw people not even people that I followed, but just sort of like in my space. So like their tweets still show up on my feed somehow. And they were like, I could tell the people who were really viscerally pissed off about the dislike button. And they're like, now we can't show creators how much we hate videos and blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, you have never actually made a video. You've never actually given up hours of your time after your shitty job and put in the work just to have 5 dislikes in the first 2 minutes. Okay? You are the problem.
Well,
You know,
we're
you're-
all creators
you know.
here, I mean, we all have podcasts, videos, I've done, video essays, YouTube, all that kind of stuff. And the thing is that
What's so great about creation? What you call creation, I call the rape in the natural world.
Okay.
Dead silence.
Yeah, Malcolm tends to do that.
But yeah, no, I'm generally against it. I'm generally against the whole. But the thing is, it doesn't matter because they're the only one that exists, so I don't waste my energy anymore on it. But I mean, and not that any of it really matters in the end. But it's like I am. I mean, just me personally, and like I guess everyone feels differently about things, but it's like I have enough. I have enough incentive to affirm myself. It's like I'm always gonna. My natural inclination is always to affirm. Oh yeah, like it's good, or to excuse or to justify whatever it is that I've done because I've done it. I've spent 3 hours on it, so of course it's good. It's like I don't know. I feel like in general I want criticism. And the reason why I know that is because the more that I put into like the dance class that I'm taking, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like I want to express. These are all ways you can express yourself, and it's like
there's a Kevin Smith quote that I always talk about, which is great, and it's from his now defunct show Comic Book Men. And there's an episode when the guys who work at his comic book store made their own comic, and they went to their first convention. They were bringing the comic, and Kevin said, when you take the time, you make your work, and you put it out there, you want people's response. That's not really true. What you want is people's positive response. Like that's when you take the time to make something, you're like, yes, I want people's response. When really you want everyone to say you loved it. And I've taken positive, constructive criticism from my friends. The problem is I wish we lived in a world to where all negative criticism had a positive spin, which was it's constructed. It's, oh, I actually think you held on this shot a little bit too long to this. The problem is that more negative viewpoints of content creation, podcasts, whatever, it's always, this is shit. This sucks. You're fucking terrible. Kill yourself. Like
this is the reason why I have a hard time reading negative review, like negative, media reviews, because not a lot of people understand the art of criticism. They just kind of conflate criticisms with complaining. And yeah, that's why
I bring them up all the time. And look, I know long man bad, but like Mahler, the dude doesn't spend 3 hours just bitching about one scene. Like he literally takes his time to talk about the problems he has with movies and go into why it is. So at the end of it, you can't say he didn't, it's not just a 30-second, like, this movie is shit, the director's an idiot, goodbye, everybody. Like, like if you can, even if you have a negative spin on it, if you're coming from a place of like actually understanding the movie, or like I said, with She-Hulk, like if you actually watch an episode and you're like, this kind of stunk, if you're actually able to critically, thoughtfully explain to me why you thought it was bad, that's fine. But if it's just, this is woke crap, then I'm like, I don't actually believe that you watched this show and actually didn't like it. You're just saying what, I don't know, you're programmed to think you have to say because someone's telling you. I don't know.
It's another one of the biggest problems with reviews now, or the world period. There is a ton of terms that the world just doesn't know what they mean anymore.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that, I feel like I have the ability to nuance it. I feel like I do. If someone says something to me, I can intuit what they mean. you know, and then I can decide if I think it's valuable or not. Like, oh, this is garbage, you know. I mean, like, I guess if it's that little or that succinct, then maybe I can't maybe I can't do anything with it, right? But most of the time, I feel like that's actually a minority. From my experience on the internet, and I think that kneecapping everyone's ability to dissent is not going to help in the long run. Although in general, you just burn Twitter, burn YouTube, you know, like maybe this will make it quicker, maybe it won't. I don't know. So like does it matter if it's a little worse? Like,
well, I also believe that the art of discourse is slowly dying. Mostly because I think everything you look at Twitter, everything is a debate. It's what side do you fall upon? There's no middle ground in anything. You can't talk about Andor and not your opinion has to be you either love it and it's the greatest thing ever or it's the biggest piece of shit ever.
Yeah.
Like, I wish there was more debate on Twitter. Everything's just like a squabble or an argument. Like if there was actual debate, like imagine.
When I say, that's to me, actual debate is discussion. You know, because I don't like debate because I always feel like debate, I'm going back to the classic high school, you know, debate team.
Right, a forum. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and the fact that at the end, we're going to decide a winner. To me, a discussion is you have your viewpoint. I have my viewpoint. I'm going to explain to you mine. You're going to explain to yours. And at the end, I know a little bit more about why you feel about it. You know about mine. But it doesn't have to be, I have to change your mind. That's my problem is it's always just like, Mike, you like Avatar. I got to tell you why it's crap, and you got to agree with me that it's crap at the end of this. That's not a discussion.
Part of that reminds me of, it might be my favorite Ron White joke of all time. He's talking about how he got kicked off his high school debate team for saying, yeah, well, fuck you. I thought I won. The other kid was speechless. And it's like, and that's what it turns into a lot of times, because it's like you said, you don't need to be wrong. You need to be wrong to the point of where you realize that I'm right.
Exactly. And I don't like that. And I think it's terrible because I think that's just like when we make these absolutes, like to quote Obi-Wan Kenobi, only a Sith deals in absolutes. Like why? Yeah, and I know the joke is that in itself is an absolute.
I know. I just had to get
so. What the fuck, Obi-Wan? You're kind of, but I just think when we make these absolutes, when we force ourselves for stuff that, let's be honest, film and television and all this stuff, it is art. You know, I always use the example. You can go to the Louvre and look at the Mona Lisa. There are people who can go and they look at the Mona Lisa and they're moved to tears because they think it's so beautiful. There are people who go there and look at it and they look at the cracks and the paint fade. And there are people who look at it and go, okay. Like movies and TV, they're art in the same way. So we all come to stuff in our own way. And we all, you know, our backgrounds or the things we like or the things we hate can sometimes influence different films and everything. It's just the problem that you can't like that thing because I hate it. Like that, like selfish thing of just like.
Do you think that's what it actually is, though? I don't necessarily.
I can
in my own life, yeah, I've had people try to. So I love the Star Wars prequels. It's my favorite Star Wars trilogy. I've had people, and I'm not saying on Twitter. I'm saying people I met in college, friends of friends, who tried to tell me that I was wrong. I once told someone that I liked parts of George Clooney's performance in Batman and Robin, and this dude, I kid you not, tried to tell me I was factually wrong. That my opinion was factually incorrect. Unfortunately, I've had those run-ins to where it's just like trying to tell me that I'm factually wrong because of my feelings. Your feelings are not based in fact. That's why they're called feelings.
Well, one of the most I guess you could say spirited debates that I've ever had was at a comic book shop. It was the comic book owner who's trying to argue with me why Superman needs to be a specific way, you know? There's a lot of things that were said, but he had a very puritanical view of how Superman was supposed to be. And I was, you know, and he was really upset. I mean, I felt like I was I felt like I was being more reasonable than he was, but who knows? I don't know. Maybe I wasn't, but
Yeah.
But in general, though, I feel like most people are less frustrated about what you think, but instead they're more concerned about what they think that you think about their idea. So it's like, oh, you're wrong. It's like, well, it's not. Like, maybe what you're saying is true. Maybe they do think that you're wrong, but it's less about the fact that they think that you're wrong, but that they think that you are wrong. Does that make or right?
I do
I think I
see-
know what you're. I think I know what you're getting at.
Yeah. That was way overcomplicated, but it's like because for instance, your opinion about something that doesn't really matter or doesn't seem to matter in the cultural landscape, right? Will usually be a lot more benign. Like if it's about, I don't know, like some major blockbuster movie or whatever. It's like, oh, if too many people have this opinion, I'm not going to get a sequel, or the Snyderverse is not going to be restored, or whatever, or woke ideology will reign.
Oh well,
or
yeah, that's people unfortunately putting a lot of stock in their lives into things that are not absolute.
And I think
When you
that's
look-
where Twitter people are.
Oh, and that goes beyond pop culture. You look at that with sports teams and
Yeah.
people who, if the team doesn't win this year, I'm gonna kill myself because I can't live in a world where the Eagles lose. Like, and we laugh, but it's like
You
those
can.
people exist as the same people, like you're saying with the Snyderverse, which is if people don't like this movie, I don't get more movies, and look, I love movies. There are movies that are very integral to me, but like I've never lived and died on movies. But there are people who do, and I think those are the people. And I also think there are people who unfortunately just think their opinions are right and everyone else is wrong.
Yeah.
And those people do exist, and they're the people who will try to prove you wrong and look at this scene. How can you think that this is good? And so it's just like, because I do.
And
Or
like
maybe I don't, and that's okay.
I've had that same thing where it's like restart the clock. I'm mentioning Gurren again. I have a ton of friends that watch anime, but none of them will even go near one if it has a mech in it, because every single mech anime is exactly the same. I have had this fucking conversation with more people than I can physically count in my entire life. I'm like, cool. What mech animes have you watched? And do not say Gundam.
So you're part of what you're saying is you're part of the problem.
And then they're like, well, I've only seen Gundam. I'm like, okay, have you seen other ones to compare that it's the exact same as Gundam? Well, no. Then can I ask why you think they're all the same?
Yeah.
Because they're just about big robots fighting. I'm like, cool. Did you watch the scenes within the 2 minutes that they're fighting? Well, no. I'm like, and then I explain of like why I watch Gurren. To go in, Matt, the entire show is around the thing is powered by the literal self-belief and self-confidence of a person that they can keep going on. That's what powers the mech. He literally has a whole entire arc where his life is in a fucking shithole because his best friend is murdered in front of him and he can't properly think until someone comes around that has literally never met this guy that everyone thinks is a godsend and goes, I can't judge you based off him, but I think you're pretty amazing for who you are. And it finally gets the confidence that, like, no, Kamina believed in me. He thought I was a great person. And it comes back that, like, he believed in himself because he had me supporting him. It wasn't the other way around. And I bring up that there's these emotional ties and all this stuff. And they'll just be like, no, I watched it. There was none of that there. It was just robots fighting.
Well, that's also
and then I will tell that I'm factually wrong that I felt that way.
Yeah.
So I get
Well, yeah,
where you're
and
coming
that also
from.
goes into the problem of just like, people who don't watch movies, but they'll say, oh, that's a terrible movie.
Or they have opinions.
Rotten Tomatoes or their favorite movie critic says it was bad. And it's like, but you haven't seen it.
I totally agree with both you guys.
You hate it.
Let me devil's advocate both you guys though a little bit. Okay, so in regards to like the mecha thing, right? It's like it's almost as like if someone says you should watch this thing, right? Oh, but I don't like it because it has this. But have you seen enough of it to like for you to justify that opinion? It's like, well, no, but I know myself quite well, And also to maybe add a little bit more nuance to what I was going to say, like mech are important to me. So when I watch something with a mech in it, that will drown out everything else because I'm thinking about the mech more than I'm thinking about the intricacies. And I know myself that I won't be able to appreciate anything else that has a mech in it because mechs have some sort of weird significance to me. And yeah, that's freaking weird. Like I don't understand it. But like that's what they're coming from. And a lot of people just can't articulate themselves, or perhaps they feel insecure. They don't want to articulate themselves, or they don't know why they feel the way that they feel. That's the situation comes down to. Yeah.
And that is true too. And I've been in that position too, to where
same.
There are things that I love, and if you try to ask me to like, you know, there are movies that I love that I'm just like, even in like a video essay that I make, like there are movies like, you know, Rocky and The Iron Giant and Cry Kid and Breakfast Club. There are these movies that I love that were there for me in very important moments that, like, even in a 5-hour video, I wouldn't really scratch the surface to, in the same way that there are movies that I'm just like a movie I watched earlier this year for the first time, Bull Durham, that I'm like, I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. And I honestly can't tell you why. Like, I can't explain to you why it didn't work for me, but I just know it didn't. And I think people forget when watching content, you know, movies, TV, whatever, but emotions do play into it.
When you watch it, the context, all that, like,
and not even, and I think the problem is when I say emotions are in it, it's always, once I get back to the absolutes, it's always the highs of highs and lowest of lows in our emotions, when it's just like, no, our emotions can literally just be like, how was I feeling that day? Was I really tired when I watched this? Because that also can affect how I felt about it, you know? And you know, that's, you know, you take your favorite movie of all time. If you saw it on when you were 3 and you had a really shitty day, maybe you wouldn't like it, even though it is your favorite movie now. Like it's, you know, and that's the interesting thing about art, is the fact that a lot of it is driven by when we see it and how we see it, and when it comes to us and how it comes to us. Because look, there are things that people love because it reminds them somebody that they care about, you know, and not even in a, oh, this person showed me this. It's literally, oh no, this thing has a character who reminds me of my uncle who passed away or something. And so I'm always going to love it because that's the closest thing I have to him right now, or, you know, stuff like that. And that's something that, like, you can't quantify. You can't, you know, it's, and that is the incredible thing. I think that's why I love movies, because for me in my life, that's always been movies. Movies have always been that thing that I've had to turn to in the bad times and the good times. Like, there are times when I'm just like, man, I kind of just want to watch a really funny movie. Let me throw on Birdcage.
Yeah.
Just want to laugh. I'm not feeling bad. I'm not feeling down. I'm just like, man, I'd really love to just watch a comedy right now, you know? Like, it's incredible.
And that's the thing about social media, how it plays into it, is because, like, there are times in my life where I'm feeling a lot more rigorous when it comes to movies. Like, I'll watch a movie twice, you know, once to watch it for fun, another time to review it. I'll go in with notes. I'll think about it. I'll analyze it. I'll use all this energy to, like, extract everything. You know, I put a lot of intentionality into, like, my watch of the movie. And then other people, you know, on social media will literally just watch it for the lulz, you know, like, and then you put both those people on Twitter, and it's like, you're not going to get like a very, the discourse you're going to get out of that, it's not going to be, you know, it's going to be like, it's not going to be anything there, you know?
Yeah, you look at your favorites and stuff. Like, my favorite TV show is The Office, the US one. Just like, dude, I love that show, but I also understand people are just like, yeah, I've watched it and it's done nothing for me. But it's like, that's, you know, our favorites are our favorites for a reason, you know, and also our least favorites. And that's why I always say, I don't think, because there are some people who are just like overly positive and are like, don't talk negatively about stuff. I'm like, no, that's good. Because when we talk about why we don't like things, it reminds us why we like the things we like. Like, personally, my least favorite film of all time is A Good Day to Die Hard. I can talk about why I don't like that movie. And when I talk about that movie, it reminds me why The Empire Strikes Back is my favorite movie of all time. Because I look at the things that A Good Day to Die Hard fails at, that Empire succeeds at. Yin and yang is a thing for a reason. You can't have yin without yang. You can't have what is light without dark. You know? Who is Superman without Lex Luthor? Like, how can there be heroes if there are no villains? Like, how can that? You can't. There's two sides to a coin for a reason.
Life is like a circle.
I'm gonna make a story where Superman can be just fine without Lex Luthor and vice versa, and it's gonna be good.
They can. You just can't get the box office.
Well, technically, they kind of did that. It was season 5 of Smallville. It was called Lexmas. Technically, that's what that episode was. Clark Kent wasn't a superhero. Lex Luthor had Lana Lang. His life was pretty solid.
Solid.
And I want to have that episode where we have
He's still
from the Batman
having
animated
it, though.
series we never got, where the Joker actually has to deal with the IRS because they bring up that he is more scared of the IRS than Batman.
Oh my god. Well, hey, talking about that, dude. The episode, The Man Who Killed Batman. Remember the Joker when he finds out Batman's there? He's just like, with Batman gone, life has no punchline. It's just like, who is the Joker if Batman doesn't exist? Well, also, that's why I know a lot of people don't like the movie, but like I love the movie Megamind. And one of my favorite scenes is when he takes over the city and is in the mayor's office, and it's just like, I'm so used to Metro Man showing up now. What do we do? And then he's like, I gotta create a superhero because I literally have nothing to do now. Like, it's great.
When that gets done right, that is one of my favorite situations where the person won and they just go, this sucks.
That's why a lot of Disney sequels aren't really true, because I'm like, you met in 3 days and you fell in love. How many of those marriages ended in divorce? Okay,
I bet all of them.
Many.
Well, okay, let's be honest though. The times were different that the original stories came from. I mean, like for instance, we are far beyond the
I'm
point.
just messing with Disney. It's just my favorite joke to make. I'm like, half of those marriages ended in divorce. Let's be honest. Belle didn't even know Beast's real name. Okay, guys.
Okay,
Man,
I won't go into my whole little philosophical rant then.
That brings up a really bad joke where they're just like, what if Belle wasn't interested in what, he was packing when he wasn't Beast? Like, that's one of the things where it's always just like, she was ready to get some.
That is my favorite joke that Doug Walker brought up in his December review of Beauty and the Beast, where he's like, yeah, I don't think she ever learns his name. Does she just call him Beast forever?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Does she?
It's like their versions. It's like their times version of Daddy. It's like.
Where are you going with this? What?
That's what it was. It was Beast.
Hello, Beastie.
Yeah. Big boy.
So that's what Lumiere meant when he asked Belle if she was thirsty.
Yep.
Right
same
there.
Thing that the same thing that they asked Lois Lane in the theatrical cut.
Clark said you were the thirstiest before ever. Hungriest.
That's funny.
Good God. All right. This went all over the place, but I was okay with that because there was not really a dull moment ever.
That was great.
No.
That was fun. I'll gladly have.
Oh yeah, I had a blast with this one.
That went, like I said, all over the place, but it's fine because you need it every now and then. And for the most part, got into some stuff that I didn't know we were going to talk about, which I get to, anytime I got to even hear that someone liked Gurren as much as I do for 2 seconds, I was happy. And like just extended like discourse of certain stuff.
It's frankly the best thing that Trigger/Gainax has ever done. I mean, to this day.
Wrong.
I mean,
you're not wrong.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. But yeah. All right. So we're just gonna get on out of here because I don't feel like I've been here for 3 hours, but we've been here for 3 hours. This was very all right.
I feel like it. I'm like
I can't wait to be gone from these people.
Where can everybody find you?
At And then you go first.
Mike.
Oh,
Millennium Mike. Where can
MM. Oh
everybody
yeah,
find you? Sorry.
I'm not used to be called MM. I'm
Yeah. I'm not used to having two. Do you know how rare it is when I have two different mics in the same podcast?
Yeah. So your last name is K, right? So you're MK.
Where can everybody find you?
Okay.
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 The movies are great. Okay.
Oh, you got all the jelly school on you. Okay.
So at the Exiles Net on Twitter, that's the Exiles plural net. You can find me on Vero at Millennial Mike, YouTube at Millennial Mike. Although I haven't been doing a lot of YouTube content recently, but I got some oldies but goodies on there. Like that one,
The one you
Poseidon / Ruby meme video that you're gonna watch before you go to bed tonight.
Oh, absolutely.
So yeah.
Oh no! I just opened it and I saw what it was, and I'm already you bastard. Pure is my favorite character. You son of a bitch.
I was so yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god. Ah!
Dude, you were like the only person to ever watch this video. So like the fact that you actually found out what a gym it was, I'm so happy. Like finally.
Oh god. All right.
So funny.
Mike K. Okay, where can everybody find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at CaptainK42. You can check out my quick thoughts on letterboxd.com/CoachK42. And you can follow Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and Twitter at Ren Pop Culture. You can also find us on Podchaser, on YouTube, on the Banana Meter. Listen to all of our podcasts on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. And last but not least, everything can be found at renegadepopculture.com. You can escape, so do we.
And Matt.
You guys can find me at Kearns_Matthew on Twitter, MattMovies611 on YouTube, and also on Take 3 Productions, where I do a multitude of things over there. And there's also some other cool people. Okay.
And you can find me everywhere at Organite Zero, mostly on YouTube and Twitch. Currently on YouTube, podcast once a month. We're doing the fresh takes for A Comic a Kill still, so that's gonna be going for like the rest of the half of the year. So
Great show.
It is. It's very good. Have you read the?
Yes, I have.
Okay, all right. I was gonna say because we do a comparative at the end where I read it. Yeah, Thank you. Outside of
let's go.
outside of two parts. I love it. We can talk about that later because I bring it up in the thing because we compare them. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Plot armor doesn't exist, and I loved it.
Yes.
But yeah, that's gonna be going for a while, and then we got some other stuff coming up. But yeah, everybody, thank you for joining again. I'm glad that I get to do this. I'll gladly have both of you on again. It was a ton of fun. Until next time, you'll see you all later.